Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of receiving presentations on certain fiscal year 2026 department budgets.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for April 8th, 2025. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during tonight's budget presentations. Input options during the live meeting include in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input for the presentation they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which presentation you would like to speak to in the chat function or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which presentation you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Thank you. Sprank.
Here.
Wethel. Here. City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
Thank you. So we'll move on to our budget presentations.
All right, well, thank you very much, Adrian. So up first tonight is the airport. So Todd, you can take it away.
Thank you. And good evening, Mayor and City Council. Todd Dolsing, Dubuque Regional Airport. I'm going to leave our mission statement up while I introduce our Dubuque Airport Commissioners. From left to right, we've got our Airport Chair, Michael Phillips. Our Vice Chair is Mary Ann Kurtz-Weber. Newly appointed last month, Bob Woodward, R.J. Blocker, and Doug Brotherton. Our Airport Commission goals are to expand corporate and general aviation services, increase visibility and awareness of airport services, maintain existing facilities, expand facilities to attract new business and increase service level, increase and diversify revenue streams, and retain and increase commercial air service. Our Dubuque Airport organizational chart, we have 4 departments that provide service to our customers and keep the airport operating safe and secure 24/7, 365. The vacant positions in this slide are currently frozen pending the addition of commercial air service. So in our airport administration, we have Dan Claus. He's the assistant director that oversees the operations and maintenance department. Excuse me. Jenny Meserich, who's joining us tonight, Jenny, who came to us from the legal department very recently when Cheryl Sheldon retired. And the airport marketing is a combination of Randy Gale's team, PIO, and the airport. Under the airport operations, we have Jesse, Ben, and Chad. Airport maintenance, we have Jason and Drew that are maintenance. Bob Moyer is our mechanic, and Connie Simon is our part-time custodian. Under the Dubuque Jet Center, we got Mark Beasley as our FBO supervisor. Tim Furlong is our assistant FBO supervisor. Tina Malone is our part-time CSR, and then we've got about 7 to 10 part-time line service workers. As a reminder, the airport has received 3 rounds of federal relief totaling just over $3.3 million that have been used for debt service and operational costs to include local match on FAA improvement program projects. The BIL grant totaling just over $1.4 million is in addition to the federal relief funds. The federal relief grant funds have reduced the tax askings over the last 5 years. All funds have been used for debt service, equipment, and capital projects. Dubuque Airport Commission and staff continue to follow the master plan approved and adopted by the City Council and Airport Commission in 2021. The master plan is a 541-page document to assist guiding the airport over the next 15 years. A complete copy can be found available on our website at flydbq.com. Following master plan recommendations, FY25 capital improvement projects in progress include reconstruct taxiway alpha, pavement maintenance update, terminal exit lane modifications, and airfield surface markings. Rehabilitate taxiway alpha phase 3, construction phase 2 is a continuation of a multi-year project. FY25 portions are highlighted in blue on the slide, and they're going to be starting soon. This is a 90% federal, 10% local, for a total project of just under $6 million. Our pavement management update study is required by the FAA every 3 years to evaluate airfield pavement surfaces and input into our Dubuque Airport pavement manual to track the lifespan and justify eligibility for current and future federal funding requests. The next scheduled date is 2028. Again, this is a 90-10 split for a total of just around $120,000. Terminal security improvements to meet security requirements, Dubuque implementing exit lane modifications. This is a series of exit lane doors that will provide a barrier between the public and the sterile hold area and eliminate the need for airport staff to monitor the exit lane, which will, of course, show a savings of future operational costs. This is a combination of Iowa Department of Transportation commercial service vertical infrastructure and customer service facility fees for rental car revenues that can only be used in the terminal for a total cost of $300,000. Airfield surface marking runway painting project in 2024 during an FAA Part 139 annual inspection, there was a recommendation to remove and replace runway paint markings due to the existing paint is beginning to show signs of flaking and peel due to the thickness, which is primarily on the outer edges of the runway, which could cause a hazard known as foreign object debris or FOD. The project will be coordinated with our runway construct taxiway alpha scheduled runway closures this summer. This one's got a couple different pots of money. The total project is $553,260. 80% is funded $329,600 from the state. 20% DOT matching funds of $82,400, and then the remaining will come from the airport revenues of $141,260. The University of Dubuque has recently announced major improvements for the airport campus. Dubuque Regional Airport continues to work with the UD staff to accomplish airport and UD master plan goals. As the demand for pilots have grown, so has the enrollment. The expansion takes into consideration the planned growth and expected trends for over the next 20 years. So this slide, we're showing 4 different components, and starting with number 1 is a planned 17,000 square foot addition to the Babka Flight Center to include divided classrooms, additional flight instructor debriefing rooms and workstations, and more offices. The addition is also expected to include space to house around 20 new flight simulators. Number 2 on the slide is the Learning Center's parking lot is going to be expanding from approximately 50 to around 275 auto parking stalls. Number 3, expansion efforts will extend out under the aircraft apron, which will increase by approximately just under 60,000 square feet. And finally, 4, a 43,000 square foot hangar is planned to be constructed adjacent the Babka Flight Center. That site work is actually going to begin tomorrow. Following master plan recommendations again, the FY26 capital improvement projects proposed include reconstruct taxiway alpha and general aviation apron phase 2, rehabilitate taxiway alpha phase 4, construction phase 3, continuation of multi-year project FY26 portions highlighted in purple on the slide. Said again, a 90%, 90-10 split for a total of just over $5 million. And reconstruct general aviation apron phase 2. This project reconstructs approximately just under half of the general aviation apron, or approximately 10,000 square yards. Apron serves as the primary parking ground handling area for general aviation aircraft. Phase 1 was already completed in 2024. The apron pavement is in poor condition according to the FAA approved pavement maintenance condition survey, and that's what justifies the federal funding. So this is funded out of FIA and BIL funds, some state funds, and our local match for a total of just over $2.4 million. FY26 requested operating budget summary. And the FY26 requested property tax supports. FY26 recommended improvement package improvement request are recommended by the city manager include a mechanic vehicle lift and combine 2 part-time positions into 1 full-time customer service representative. There was an airfield de-ice system originally in the FY26 recommended improvements, but working with the city manager, the airport was able to purchase the necessary components, and staff constructed the system in FY25 prior to this just previous winter operations to incur savings in this fiscal year 25 and future fiscal years for over more expensive pre-made delivered liquid de-ice that we use on the airfield pavement surfaces. So to give you an example, the current price of it's called liquid E36 that we put on our paved surfaces is $4.85. The new brine system that our staff was able to construct and now make on site is $2.41. So that's about a savings of about $2.44 per gallon. And if you estimate we use about 8,000 gallons a year, that results in a savings of just under $20,000 per year. Performance measures, aviation fuel gallons sold in the past 5 years. Graph shows aviation fuel only, Jet A and 100 low lead. The blue column on the left shows the gallons sold. The green columns on the right shows the net profit. Performance measures continue. Dubuque has 92 based aircraft in a variety of hangars. We have 12 jets, 77 turbo/piston, and 3 helicopters. The number and type of aircraft provided in the graph, and there's also examples included in the slide. Compared to other Iowa commercial airport, Dubuque ranks 3rd in total based aircraft. And of course, the University of Dubuque will be adding to our count as the enrollment increases. Dubuque aircraft operations, and an operation is defined as a takeoff or a landing of an aircraft. The numbers are calculated on a calendar year and include all aircraft. As you can see, Dubuque is the 2nd busiest airport in Iowa with just over 80,000 aircraft operations. And we did put some other commercial airports up there just to compare. As you can see, Des Moines is around 106,000. Cedar Rapids is 3rd at 45,000. And we always like to include Chicago O'Hare just to give you an idea of how many operations they have per year. That's the ORD number of over 837,000. Staff continues to work with our tenants to promote high-quality airport services. We have Dubuque, Blue Skies over Dubuque. They provide aircraft maintenance to local and transient general aviation and our commercial aircraft customers. The University of Dubuque has over 350 students. Next year projected to grow to 490 students. And I was just told at a meeting last week that they've logged just over 23,000 flight hours in 2024, which was very impressive. EAA has over 100 members, and they occupy hangar space as part of our partnership with the airport to help build general aviation awareness and education. Civil Air Patrol has over 40 members. Their mission is supporting America's communities with emergency response, diverse aviation and ground services, youth development, and promotion of airspace and cyber power. Key City Flyers has over 80 members, lease 3 aircraft, and they're looking to purchase an additional high-wing aircraft. And all of those organizations mentioned volunteer during our variety of airport events held throughout the year. Partnerships providing community outreach at the airport through tours and gatherings. We've got some pictures there from some previous tours. Provide a commercial air service update. I'm going to start with Dubuque Air, which was formed and continues to meet weekly with ongoing mission to restore, maintain, and increase commercial air service. Board members include the chair, City of Dubuque, Mayor Brad Kavanaugh. Thank you, Mayor. The vice chair is County Board of Supervisors Harley Potoff, Dubuque Racing Association, Stacy Kansky, Chamber of Commerce, Molly Grover, Travel Dubuque, Keith Ray, Greater Dubuque Development, Jason White, Airport Commissioner, Marianne Kurtz-Weber, myself. Dubuque Air Board was successful fulfilling the City of Dubuque Council priority, utilizing the DOT Small Community Air Service Development Grant in the amount of just under $2.1 million to restore daily scheduled air service on Denver Air connection to Chicago O'Hare. After 2 years of no daily scheduled service to a hub, Denver Air began November 4th, 2024, and currently Denver Air providing afternoon service to Chicago with an interline agreements with American and United. After starting service utilizing a bus, unfortunately, to transport to the terminal due to construction at Chicago, as of May 30th, Denver Air is now utilizing gate L27. Dubuque Air continues to work with Denver Air to improve service, and at the Chamber State of Air Service event, John Coleman announced changing from all afternoon flights to some morning departures and evening returns. John also advised Denver Air is looking at starting direct flight to and from Denver, Colorado. And obviously, Dubuque Air is currently working with Denver on all proposed flight schedules. Dubuque history shows that the tri-states are capable of filling aircraft seats. The graph on the left are the total number of seats available per year. Prior to 2020, there were approximately 50,000 seats available. The graph on the right is from the 2020 Iowa Aviation Economic Impact Study, comparing with and without commercial air service. Although Dubuque has an impressive 596 employment, 26 million in salaries, and 64 million output without commercial air service, there's a significant increase to the economic impact to the airport and the tri-states with daily commercial air service. A reminder, there was a business and residential study completed in 2023 with over 8,100 responses, and those results are shown on the screen. Couple stats, 97% residents and 95% employers expect increased air service will have a positive impact on the greater Dubuque economy. 91% residents support efforts to recruit air service. 73% employers support efforts to recruit air service, understanding it may require financial guarantees. Highlights of the full survey can be found on our website. In addition to daily scheduled service, Dubuque offers unscheduled air carrier charters. Sun Country provides flights to Biloxi, Laughlin, and veterans to DC on the annual honor flight. Calendar year 24 passenger employments equal just over 1,300 passengers. Airport events, Dubuque hosts and attends numerous events throughout the year. Chamber State of the Air Service event was held at the Hotel Julian. That's the picture on the left. The commemorative Air Force Air Power event is the top right. And then the ribbon cutting event for our solar project event that just took place this summer. 2 honor flights of Dubuque over 2 days flew veterans and volunteers to DC to view the monuments and gather with fellow comrades. There are 2 additional honor flights scheduled for May of 25. Of course, the annual July 3rd Air Show and Fireworks is on the left. North American Trainers Association Formation Clinic on the right. Both those events are returning this summer as well. Of course, we've had the Denver Air inaugural flight. And in coordination with the commemorative Air Power Tour, Dubuque held annual Captain Martin Terminal Anniversary Celebration and featured author Karen Patterson's book, Red Tail, in July of 24. Captain Martin family and Karen were in attendance for discussion to answer questions and for the book signing. And with that, we encourage everyone to visit our website at flydbq.com for more information and frequently asked questions related to Dubuque. And thank you for your support, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, well, thank you, Todd. Well, we are in a public hearing to discuss the airport budget for fiscal year 26. Do we have any public input on this? Not seeing any here. Anything virtually? All right, thank you. All right, back to us then for any discussion. I'll start. First of all, thank you, Todd, for the great presentation. We appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that you're doing at the airport. I mean, it's amazing to me that we continue to be the second busiest airport in the state pretty much every single year. There's just a whole lot going on out there. And I love that when you come here, you get to tell us all the aspects that are outside of the commercial side of it, because the commercial side of it is kind of what makes the news, but everything else is really, I mean, just chugging right along out there. It's a great spot to be. So thank you very much for your work and for the work of all your team. I have a question about one of your improvement packages. So number 3, 3 of 5, it is not recommended. It is $10,000 additional dollars for advertising expenses. And, Mike, you might be included in this conversation too. But, and I understand that every single decision is a tough one. We have to figure out, every dollar that we spend, we have to talk about and figure out where it goes. But this one struck me because of a couple of things. One, this is definitely one of our top 5 priorities, and it has been for 2 years running now. And one of our, and I'll say this too, in the year ahead, there are not that many more levers for us to pull to be able to do something about commercial air service. We have our SCASD grant, the Small Community Air Service Development Grant that is in place. It's paying for the minimum revenue guarantee for the flight that we have with Denver Air Connection right now. Denver Air Connection has announced that, as you mentioned, that they're looking at changing the flight times, and we're looking for an announcement on that probably pretty soon, actually, to decide when those flight times are going to change. Those things are all happening. We've kind of established we don't really have another option for other federal funds to go after. Doesn't look like there's any state funds to go after to help with minimum revenue guarantees. And so the minimum revenue guarantee thing is kind of there. And we also don't have, we also are recognizing that we're limited in our ability to advertise based on the funding that we have. Can you remind me the funding that we have to advertise currently for the airport?
So, and there is a couple, I think there's a note on it in that 3 of 5 for the improvement level. So currently, we, every year, which I'm applying for right now, so it actually hasn't yet been approved yet for next year, but every year we apply for a Iowa DOT, it's called the Air Service Development Grant. The number hasn't changed for a number of years. That's set on the state, of course, but that's another 80-20 match, if you will. So of the $48,000 that the state puts in, our match is $12,000. So then we have a total of $60,000 for advertising.
So a total of $60,000 currently
Correct.
for advertising, yeah. And then remind me, because I know that we talked about this number previously, but the general amount that, say, the Cedar Rapids Eastern Iowa Airport has for advertising.
It's been a couple of years since I've looked at that, but I can tell you it's in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. So it's definitely different. I mean, there's a wide variance
Yes.
there. And here's my challenge, and this is why I'm actually going to ask us to consider holding this, which I fully recognize that whatever we hold, we have to be able to counteract in some other way. But I'd like to be able to continue the discussion over the next few weeks, because our challenge is the fight we have currently in advertising and changing the behavior of people in our region to fly out of Dubuque is a big one. It's very challenging. And we're fighting against other airports. Cedar Rapids is a great example. They're using a good chunk of their money to advertise directly in our city and advertise directly against us. So they're saying things on their billboards like, more options. Well, yeah, they're probably going to have more options than one, but they're advertising directly, trying to essentially stop us from having air service and defeat that and be able to fly instead, to drive an hour and a half and fly there. So I think that we need to seriously consider the possibility that this is something that we really do need to do because of the fact that this is a top priority. It's a smaller amount of money than we probably need to be able to do this as adequately as we want to, but I think it's something that I do think we need to consider. So, Mike, I'll give you a chance to chime in because I know it's your recommendation and I think I understand it, but if you have anything else to add, you can.
Yeah, thank you. So I certainly realize it's a city council top priority, and so I'm cautious, to be responsive as I can to council priorities. But I just want to reread from the request what this money is for. So it says, we are asking an additional $10,000 to cover non-airline related advertising costs. This would assist in advertising for events like public viewing of the aircraft in the July 3rd air show and other general aviation events. So this money would not be targeted to have people fly to Butte. Now, of course, anybody that knows about the airport or comes and experiences, all that's always good. So it's not like that makes this money a bad request. It's a great request, but it's not targeted for the purpose, I don't feel anyway, of the council priority. But that all still doesn't mean it shouldn't figure out a way to see if it fits. So anyway, I'd happy to answer any other questions.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. So Todd, would this advertising, would it allow other advertising funds to open up to be able to be used?
I think that was the intent, because I think the way it's lined out in our budget is we have $10,000 to use for outside of commercial air service, so this would replace that, if you will.
Because right now you're using the commercial air service funding to be advertised for things like this or not?
Well, our budget, I have to look at our actual breakdown. I don't know if we have that handy or not, and I can get it back to you, but our budget is broken down. So the 60,000 is dedicated mainly to the commercial air service right now, because that's our biggest ticket, right? So we're trying to promote that, everything we've got to promote that. But the way I understand that it's broken down in our budget, there is money set aside for other services like air shows and things like that.
Okay. All right.
But we can get that to you.
Yeah, I'll
Clarify that.
maybe we'll gain some clarity on that first. Oh, Jennifer's got it.
But go ahead. I'm sorry, I'll just take a quick look at this while you're.
Yeah, so we'll look at that more closely and see if it actually fits with what I'm suggesting the need might be, but understand if it's not. Did you?
Yeah, no, I'd have to go through the
Okay,
paragraph.
understood.
But yeah, basically, everything that we've got right now is going towards commercial air service.
Okay. So I'll have to think about this a little bit more as we talk about it maybe and see if this is actually worth the possibility of holding it or not. So Ms. Farber, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've got two things. First is, of course, the shout out to the University of Dubuque and our aviation expansion. And as a proud member of that board, we are so excited about the new facilities, the extension, the new parking, which is a real challenge for the students, because right now they have to park in one location, physically walk or run to the next location in order to either take a flight out for their air practice and or come back to the simulator. So it's really going to be quite easy to do business with for the students. So we are just very, very pleased. And yes, you're right, we are expanding to almost 500 students because there is such a drought of pilots. But there's also aviation management and other kinds of curriculum that these students follow. So they're not all 100% pilots. But they all do get practice on the air.
Yeah.
So thank you for your support on that.
They don't all go to the commercial service. There's also corporate and other pilots.
Other kinds of things too. So everybody graduates with the job. It's just really exciting.
Aviation workforce shortage, and they're filling
and
it.
what's nice about the students, once they graduate, a lot of them become flight instructors on campus to increase the hours of airtime, so that when they do look for a job external to their graduate work, they have many more practice hours in an aircraft behind them. And that's also part of the UD program to support the students, which gives them extra funding also. So we're real pleased, and thank you very much again for your support. Yeah. The question I have that ties into the mayor's point is the de-ice brining system. You said the money that was saved. Are those funds potentially available for expanding the advertising on behalf of the flight, the commercial aspect for the flight?
Yeah, that's absolutely something we can look into, because, yeah, as I mentioned, by implementing it in 2025, we did save some costs. There's the cost to purchase the parts and assemble it, and then there's the cost of the granular that gets mixed with water to produce the brine, of course. Right. But so when you take that all into consideration, we'd have to look at our actual 2025 costs. But even going forward, as I mentioned, we do show a savings of just under $20,000 annually. So
that's just food for thought. I know Jennifer is shaking her head there, but was
it this way or was it this way?
It was kind of not sure.
I'm kidding.
It's just
we
food
can
for
take
thought.
a look at it, of course.
I'm trying to create some opportunity here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jennifer, did you want to speak to anything?
Jennifer Larson, Chief Financial Officer. I would just caution, essentially the airport pre-spent fiscal year 26 funds to purchase their equipment, so a portion of the funds would not be available unless other funds were identified to purchase that equipment. If there are other savings that Todd is talking about, those could be used, but just want to caution on the actual cost to purchase the equipment.
But every dollar helps, right?
Yep,
I mean, it
agreed.
doesn't have to be a $10,000. It could be, a particular percent of whatever is the revenue gain from being very creative and managing your own brining system. So,
Right.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Schrank.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Todd, question about, a couple questions about your Phase 4, the Taxiway Alpha Phase 4, and then, of course, your General Aviation Apron Phase 2. Are those numbers going to be adequate with all the construction cost changes, or are those?
That's almost like the $1 million question right now, right? With the market and everything the way it is. We've actually been these are obviously drawn from engineers' estimates. And they've actually been very close to their budget numbers for previous years. So I would say we're actually going to be hopefully in the ballpark. And if not, there are usually some ways that we can potentially decrease costs, or, in this phase, we might have to shrink it up a little bit and then add to the next phase that's going to connect to it. And that really goes for both the Taxiway Alpha Phase 4 as well as the General Aviation Apron Phase 2. As I mentioned, it's approximately 10,000 square yards. If bids come in high, that might be 9,000 square foot yards. So we'll have to, depending on what the bids come in, as always.
Right.
Good
Thank you.
question, though. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Resnick.
You can almost feel here how we all want this to succeed, and we appreciate it. We're cheering and working, and you're especially working, the mayor and your group together, Dubuque Air, working so hard that I start feeling or start thinking out of the box. Like, if I had $10,000, I'd give 200 tickets $50 off. Get those people in there. They have their guarantees, and maybe we could, of course, maybe that's not the right thing to do, but we're all trying to think. I'm sure your Dubuque Air is also trying to think out of the box, because this is so very important, and we're so happy that you're there leading this effort. So again, I'm sure you've thought of, are there other out of the box ideas that people have thought about that maybe we could get behind, or I know it's my idea is a little bit maybe a little too far out of the box, but have you come up, or have you heard some other, like some of the airports that are also trying to get legacy carriers to do?
Yeah, so, we try to leave no stone unturned, right? So we're applying again for a DRA grant, which would include for some marketing funds and some other things. You're not too far off with, either using money to purchase tickets, or in our case, we do have some tickets that we're able to give away, as you saw John did at the Chamber Air Service Forum. So there is some of that going on as well. But the big key is, the tri-state area, we just need to support it for it to succeed and to retain it and grow it as well. But we'll continue to look. And we've got a great team, at Dubuque Air, and lots of wonderful organizations and leaderships. Everybody's providing excellent input.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So I was looking through while everybody was talking. I'm seeing an advertising line on page 21 of the budget book. So a couple, I guess a question about this, and then maybe we can go back to this $10,000 that is suggested. I do see that the advertising decreased pretty dramatically after fiscal year +24. So I'm just curious
So
what
I
happened.
can elaborate on that a little bit. So initially in our advertising budget, we had our consultant fees. So Matt Skinner with Global Flight Solutions is our air service consultant, and his fees were taking out of our advertising budget. So to clean it up and make sure everything's in the right place, we took that $50,000 ish, and put it towards I can't remember what the line number is, but it's basically for professional services.
Okay.
Professional services? Professional services.
Okay. Okay. So that makes
So
sense.
that's the reason for the drastic
Yeah.
decrease in
Yeah.
that.
Is there anything that says I mean, this would be changing something midstream here, but would there anything to be said that we couldn't say that the $10,000 is more for commercial advertising rather than what was requested in there?
Yeah.
I mean, is that a possibility here?
We could direct that to commercial air service, yes, absolutely.
And I know, I mean, Mike, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that because I know that's out of character for the way that we normally do things here.
Well, I think that's a better use of the money if the council ends up identifying, the thing that we're not going to do to fund it. Yeah, I certainly think that's a better use.
Well, that would actually be my suggestion then, and that would be for us to consider as a possibility. I understand if the answer is no, just because of the enormity of this budget that's before us and the things we're dealing with, but considering the fact that this is such a priority for us, and there's just not that much more that we can fund, to be able to help it. This is directly funding it to help it. I would suggest that we hold that $10,000 for separate discussion at the last meeting. That $10,000 would be directed more towards advertising for commercial air service, or would be directed towards advertising for commercial air service. And that is in conjunction with the communications department and Randy Gale and everybody working on that. And then obviously we'd have to identify where that $10,000 would come from. I think in doing so, there's no guarantee here that we will. There's no guarantee that we'd be able to come up with another place that we would pull from to be able to spend this money. But I do think, considering it is an important priority, and it's $10,000, it's not $100,000. I think that it's something that we may want to consider holding. So I would ask if there'd be an agreement with that. Mr. Resnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along with where we would find that $10,000, I think it's important for the airport to tell us how they would use that $10,000, because you could just throw another $10,000 into a wasted program. I mean, advertising is important, and yet, how you spend it, do we just do more pamphlets that sit on the counter, or what you would do with $10,000 more? I would love to have that information as well, because that's obviously, if we're going to short somebody $10,000 from another department, another service, some other citizens that we're going to get some services are no longer going to get services, well, then I think we really should have some more information about how we would spend that money. So if we could have both, if we put this aside, maybe we could be furnished with some ideas about how that might be spent.
Yeah, we're really lucky because we've got a great department in the PIO, Randy Gale and his staff, and they put together last year a annual marketing and advertising program, which includes everything from print to digital to billboard to radio, et cetera, and it's lined out line by line. Social media, using geofencing around other airports, all these things cost money to do, obviously. So Randy Gale and his team have already done that, and they're in the process of updating our 2025 plan, because that's part of what I have to submit to the state to get that $48,000 grant. So we can provide that, I guess is where I'm going, the short answer.
Super. Is effectiveness part of what they say? I mean, that's awfully hard to find out, effectiveness, but I would love to have, $10,000 spent efficiently and effectively, and sounds like you have a start to it.
Yeah, so for tracking matrix to making sure we're getting a return on our investment, et cetera.
Great.
Yeah, and yes, there are, depending on what it is, right? Some things are more easily measured than others, so you can measure clicks on social media and things like that, how many times people view things, paper, billboards, sometimes those are a little more difficult to gauge. But I know Randy's listening in right now, Randy Gale, but I'm sure we can pull something together for you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a
welcome.
suggestion.
Sure. Randy, if you're there, is there anything you would add to that discussion?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, sure can.
Okay. Yeah, in response to Councilman Resnick's question or comment there, yeah, we track engagement on all our digital ads, and there's a lot of tracking that we can do, and we've been adjusting our campaign weekly, almost weekly, I would say, since we started it in September when the service was announced. So we've been fine tuning our advertising since it started. I think we are really dialed in at this point. Just for some context, with the $10,000 being possibly added to the 60,000 that Todd meant so that'd be a total of 70,000 for next year. This current fiscal year between between the airports, existing budget and the DBQ air contributions, we will have spent nearly $160,000 total in marketing for air service this fiscal year. So just to give you context for what we'd be looking at, the significant drop we'd be looking at next year, based on what we're talking about for FY26. So just for context.
That's helpful, Randy. Thank you. And I think that also speaks to the fact that, this $60,000, if it were to become $60,000, I'm sorry, if it would become $70,000, that would be one portion of something. And there's a possibility that, this is one of the things DBQ Air does discuss, is how to come up with other funds to be able to do this type of advertising. But aside from currently going after applying for the DRA grant, there aren't clear avenues right now that would add to that pot of money to be able to advertise, is what I would say. So, Ms. Farber?
Could I ask one more question?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just kind of looking at the pages 22, 23 of the budget detail, and item 65110 is signage, and you've got $8,500 for signage. Could you share with us what goes under that?
So that would be a great one to take from. However, when it says signage, it actually is referring to airfield signage. And we have, as you know, from taxiing, landing, et cetera, on a runway, they're rather large directional and guidance signs. And they don't look like it from the plane, but they are very large inside with the panels and the inner components, et cetera. And that is basically what we do is we use a small portion every year to maintain those signs because they get weathered, they get faded, they get hit by snow removal equipment. This has been a great last winter, so we don't have a lot of that, thankfully. But by taking little chunks and eating off it little by little, we don't have to come and ask for hundreds of $1,000s to replace signs. So that would probably replace 3 or 4 signs on the airfield that will require to be replaced.
All right, thank you for that definition,
Yeah.
because I was chomping at the bit here thinking
I know
we
you're
had
like,
8,500, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So, that's for my suggestion to hold. Yeah, Ms. Watson?
Just a couple of questions, and I do like the idea of knowing more specifically where this allotted money would go, actually having a plan for it. I will also note this would be a recurring cost, and so I have been told in previous years when I wanted to hold things, Katie Wethel, if you want to hold something, by the way, you got to find something that's recurring. So if we're going to do this, then it's also our responsibility to find not just $10,000, but recurring $10,000. So, yeah, and I have a little bit more of a question, I think, just to clarify. Randy, you had said, so in the fiscal year thus far, we've spent $160,000, and we're now looking at 60. And so, can you clarify?
Yeah,
Were
I
there
can-
business partners that had contributed then to that? Is that some of the DRA money or chamber money?
Yeah, it is a combination. The largest portion of that is through the DRA mission grant that we received, and that we're going to be reapplying for, I think actually in the next couple of weeks for that. And then I do believe there was some funds that also came from the Chamber of Commerce to total that amount.
I just want to make sure that our community is invested in our airport as well. And so I think there's a responsibility too we need to share with business partners so that the taxpayers of Dubuque are not the only ones specifically responsible for all the marketing if this is a business service. And we've asked for a lot of partnership from business, and I appreciate what's been given. But we can't do this alone, and we haven't. But I think we need to make it clear that we cannot personally finance that level of commitment in advertising.
Mr. Mayor, you'd like to start this,
Yeah, I'm asking you if you agree
Gauging
or not. We
support.
can agree or disagree.
and
Yep.
I am open to finding something, and that's going to be a tough part, obviously, because there's lots of great things that we're not approving. This is, as you say, everybody up here, I think it's the most important thing that we need to really do is improve our air service here. So because of that, I'm absolutely going to support your proposal.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Resnick. So we got two of us at yes for holding this for separate discussion. 3, and Ms. Farber? 4. All right. Did you want to chime in? Anybody else? We got 4, so you don't need to.
I support.
Okay.
Would you like to ask Ms.
And,
Laura?
yeah, Ms. Russell, we know you're there.
Yes, yes. I would be in support of holding that and getting the additional insights on the marketing details as Mr. Resnick had suggested. And I think it might also be important to reiterate, and I don't know if this is you, Mr. Mayor, is your Dubuque Air hat, or if it's you, Todd, or Mike, but reminding our community why our airport is so important to our entire community, not just the people that might be on a particular flight, but to our businesses, just to our community as a whole. Our airport plays an important role, and I think we should remind people of that service. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Russell.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
so it causes me to reflect on the fact that, when I talk to people about Dubuque and what a great city it is and how much momentum it has and all those things, many times somebody will ask me, okay, then why isn't Dubuque bigger? And I look back in the 1950s when President Eisenhower came up with this great idea called the interstate highway system, and he left Dubuque off. And so for the next 40 years, Dubuque suffered from that fate of being left off the interstate highway system. And then in, let's see, what year would it have been? I think it was November of 1999, we got our first 4-lane highway. And since then, of course, now we have 4 4-lane highways to the outside world. And that's really helped us get back into a growth mode. Well, I'd put the airline in the exact same boat. That's the way you're connected to the world today. Of course, the rest of the United States, but the world. And we have so many assets in our community, like the colleges, like tourism, like very successful national and international businesses, that without an airline, it's just like Eisenhower leaving us off the interstate highway system. It's going to stunt our growth.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I just reiterate too, I echo everything Mike said, of course, but even reverting back to the economic impact from the study that was done in 22 on that, I guess it'd be slide 31, just showing the benefits with and without, without commercial air service, 596 employment, just over $26 million in payroll and 64 million in output. But with commercial air service, you up that employment to 789, payroll of just under 35 million, and an output of, close to $100 million. So, there's definitely an economic impact as well as everything that Mike, just mentioned and not only for just Dubuque, but really the tri-state area. We're talking Northwest, Illinois, Southwest Wisconsin, all the communities within, call it 40, 45 mile radius of our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Farber.
Just one more on this, putting my marketing hat on in terms of what you and Randy are putting together for your multimedia splash and advertisement. Do you approach the tri-state area independently, or is it done, what is?
Yeah, so we actually market to our catchment area. Okay. It's not like a specific pinpoint or age group per se. And obviously, I am not the one to answer this in the 100%. This is what Randy has explained to me, and obviously he's on the call and he can elaborate. But my understanding of the advertising and marketing is to reach our catchment area. So within that 40, 45 mile radius, including as I mentioned, putting a geofence around Moline and Cedar Rapids and Madison. So when somebody crosses that geofence, they get a ping, oh, hey, you could have flown out of Dubuque Park for free and would have been gone an hour and a half ago, kind of thing. So it's definitely a catchment area.
Yeah, okay, thank you, because I think that's really important, because there are the people that are within, 20, 30 minutes of a drive to our
Absolutely.
airport versus, 2 hours to some of the other ones, so,
Absolutely, yep.
okay, thank you.
All right, so just to clarify and summarize here, what I'm hearing is that we are going to hold this request for $10,000, which will now be changed to directly advertising for commercial air service for the airport. And then also, we're asking for some details on how this money will be spent. So some sort of a report from Todd, from you and Randy Gale in the communications department about how this would actually be spent, some sort of plan that we can have so that if we're looking at this and pulling from somewhere else, we have a better understanding of what that would really look like. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions for Todd? Maybe unrelated to commercial air service or anything like that?
Is there anything else?
Yeah, right. Well, there clearly is. There clearly is. Absolutely. Well, Todd, I'll end with a big compliment, because when I talk to people about our airport, it's not just about the challenges that come up. It's oftentimes when I talk to people nationally, they talk about you, and they talk about you and the team that you've put together. You're really well known nationally. You've got a great reputation, and I think that's a really important thing that we need to recognize too in the work that we're doing here. We've got a great leader helping us to move through this, so thank you for everything that you're doing and for everything you're putting together at the airport. It is a great place. You do have a great team, and really looking forward to the air show again this year. It's always one of my favorite things, so thanks a lot for everything that you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, we will move on to our second budget hearing of the night for the purchase of services.
The much shorter Corey Burbach. Good evening, Corey Burbach, Assistant City Manager, and I am here tonight to present the purchase of services presentation. And I want to give credit to Mary Bridget Corkin-Deutsch in the Housing and Community Development Department, who helped me put these slides together and manages a lot of this programming and works with our nonprofit partners throughout the year to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So she deserves most of the credit for this one. So the Purchase of Services program is one of 3 types of investment that you all make in our nonprofits in the community every year. And it is partnered with our contracted services and then some smaller grant programs that exist in other departments. You're going to hear about those contracted services and the other departments' grants as other departments present throughout this budget process, but tonight's really a chance for you to see how all of the pieces of the grant puzzle fit together in how we give out funds to nonprofits to make a difference in our community. So one of your goals is Partnership for a Better Dubuque, building our community that is viable, livable, and equitable. And one of the ways that we do that is by putting funds out into the community in a couple of different ways, so that nonprofits can do some of the work that the city departments wouldn't typically do. The buckets of funding that exist for that are $365,210, and that pulls together our arts and culture grants, Sustainable Dubuque, and neighborhood grants. $100,000 for purchase of service grants, which I'm going to talk about specifically. Those 2 numbers are not changing in the fiscal year 26 recommendation. And then about $3.6 million for contracted services. That number is going up a little bit, and I'll show you what that looks like as we go through the slides. So if we talk about purchase of services specifically, these are funds that are given out to nonprofit partners in the community for activities which fit into your goals and priorities in some way. But as I said, they wouldn't be provided in the normal course of city business by any of our departments, but you've identified them as a priority. The way the funding for purchase of services works is that you would allocate the total bucket that will be available when you approve the fiscal year 26 budget. So we're asking for $100,000 that you would approve through this process. And then this spring, there would be a grant competition where nonprofits could put together an application and tell us what they would use those funds for if awarded. Those applications are reviewed by the Community Development Advisory Commission, and then they are sent to you for final approval. Nonprofits are primarily the eligible applicants, but there's some other specific questions that we get quite often that we wanted to answer tonight. Faith-based organizations are eligible as long as the mission, again, is consistent with your goals and priorities. Services must be delivered within the City of Dubuque boundaries, and the service must benefit low and moderate income populations. There's a little bit more information on this slide about the purpose and some of the eligible and ineligible costs. And then, as I mentioned, these are primarily benefiting low and moderate income households. They can be place-based or person-based programs. So think of services, those types of things, events that our nonprofits carry out. And we are really looking for opportunities where we can capitalize on other funding sources that nonprofits might also have access to. When we open the competition in the spring, we also have training that we provide for the nonprofits so they can come and hear about what council's goals are, figure out how to fit into that. And then for the nonprofits that are awarded funding, they complete quarterly reports that are sent to the Housing and Community Development Department that ask them for data about what they are doing with those funds. So to look back on the year that we are currently in, this is the nonprofits that were awarded funds in fiscal year 25. Again, there's $100,000 of general funds that are allocated to this program. Some fiscal years, community development block grant funds have been in the mix, and they are not this year and are not recommended to be in the upcoming year. As we've talked about, there is no recommended change to funding for fiscal year 2026 for these funds. And no recommended change, just again to bring that puzzle piece back together, in the other grants that we have available in the City Manager's Office, Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support, and Economic Development Arts funding for some of those other smaller grants that we make available to organizations. The contracted services are a different pot of funds than the purchase of services. You would find information about each of these programs in the individual departments that are listed there in that middle column in their budget. So for instance, if I can look at the top line, Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque Project Hope, that contracted service, that contract lives in economic development. And that is the department that manages the performance measures and everything that goes along with that. So this screen summarizes the recommended contracted services amounts for fiscal year 26. And it goes on to this second slide for a total contracted service investment recommended at $3,567,469. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you, Corey. We are on a public hearing to discuss the purchase of services fiscal year 26 budget. Do we have any public input on this item this evening? Seeing none here.
None.
Next
Nothing
virtually. All right, back to us then for any discussion. I have two questions, I think. I might have missed it, but why no CDBG funds this year?
It depends on the other projects that we are recommending for funding. So based on where CDBG is used in other departments, there isn't any funding available.
Okay.
CDBG also has a lot of grant requirements that come along with it. And so what we've found in the past is sometimes it's really challenging for nonprofits to receive a small amount of grant funds that trigger a lot of reporting.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you for answering that. My second question is the second to last, or this last slide right here. Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, True North. It's a program that doesn't exist anymore, right? So,
Ian, are you able to speak to that one?
you see it's listed for economic development at 26,500.
Yeah, this is Jill. Let me take a look at my files while you're finishing up there.
Okay, thank you, Jill.
Yep.
Other questions? Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, I talked about that same point that you made about, there was a salary for True North. And so I didn't know if this may be having to do with that salary. And even then, your question is still valid. I mean, what is this person doing for True North? And if there's, so go right ahead.
That part I can answer. That question came up during the Housing and Community Development Department presentation. We looked into that. True North is an old title for a program, and I think what you're going to hear is that there's still work being done in the North End, but it is not necessarily under that brand. The funding that you asked about the other night in the Housing and Community Development Department is for 0.5 FTE for a staff person that's doing work in that neighborhood, and that portion is funded by Housing TIF. And maybe Jill will be able to fill us in on the part that's here in a minute.
Other questions or discussion?
Well, my
go
question,
ahead.
follow-up question is, are you going to change the names to properly reflect what?
We can absolutely get clarity on this naming piece, yes.
The other thing that I thought it was only halfway through, because the list goes from C through H, and then it's like, really? We end at H? And we do. So that was just something unusual. I was looking for the next sheet.
You are correct.
That's pretty rare.
A lot of Ds on the list.
Yes. All right, well, we've sufficiently killed time, I think, there with that, with further questions. Jill, do you, or Mr. Jones, yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, let me just generally say that I've always been skeptical of us purchasing services that resembles a grant program, because the way we get money is we send out a tax notice and you got to pay it. And if you don't pay it, we can take things away from you, including your freedom. And that's a big deal. It's not like United Way asking you for a voluntary contribution. That said, I'm really impressed with how the things that we are spending money on fit the city's mission and are in fact appropriate expenses. And they're things that if we tried to do them in-house would cost a lot more and result in a lot less in the outcome side. So I'm very proud of this, but I'm always looking to make sure that we're not sticking somebody up for something that should be a voluntary contribution. And in fact, our citizens are purchasing things that make our city better and stronger in every case here. So I do support this.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Jones. Jill, do you have any luck there?
I'm going through my files here, but I can speak to it. I've got time while Wally stands up there and talks to you, and I'll just keep pouring through my documents here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, thanks.
Are we okay to do that, to leave one public hearing and jump into another to be able to talk about, Krenna's not even here to answer this question, but we could come back and have Jill answer questions later on in the evening, because we
Yeah.
kind of just do this on a rolling basis,
Yeah,
basically.
and you're not taking any formal action on this either.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, I think you're fine to go back.
Okay, thank you so much, Adrian. All right, Jill, we'll hold then and come back to you in a little bit. If I forget, somebody please remind me, but I think we'll probably remember. And the question is just around the line there for True North at $26,500 and what exactly that might be. Okay, any other questions for Corey while she's here? Okay, well, thank you very much, Corey, for the presentation. We appreciate it. All right, number 3 on the list tonight is the Planning Department. So we will switch over, and we're gonna just go home because it's dark now. Oh, never mind, here we are. All right.
Mayor, so while we were talking about this, now, since we have to hold 10,000, we're looking for recurring $10,000. I mean, we all have to think about that all the time, including what you, Mr. Jones mentioned of, this amount of $100,000. Now, would it be terrible to be 90,000 and everybody knows it's 90,000 instead of 100,000? That's something to think about. We have to do that for everything now, don't you agree?
I would agree that, if there's anything that gets held for separate discussion, then it is always a question of where is that going to come from to be able to pay for it. In years past, the city manager has actually figured some things out from the staff side before the final public hearing to be able to actually pass the budget. So sometimes that's a possibility, not to always throw it on staff to make that decision, because sometimes it is on us to have to do that. But yeah, then it leads to a lot more questions that I think we all need to think about as we go through this process, and then try to answer those questions in the last evening if we have this and anything else held for any separate discussion later. All right. Well, with that, Wally, thanks for being here again.
Yes, long time no see.
Yeah.
right? Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Wally Warnemont, Planning Services Manager. That is not my presentation up there. That is a cute lion that's being showed right now. Is that projecting?
We're getting assistance with the presentation here.
What did I do?
Function,
Looks like that's the presentation you get, Wally. You're gonna have to work
Yeah.
with it.
I come in, the lights get turned down.
Yeah. The signs are not good so far. I'm just going to point that out.
There we go. So once again, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Wally Warnemont, Planning Services Department. So here to give my presentation to you. So our mission statement in the Planning Services Department is to provide friendly, knowledgeable, and professional city planning, historic preservation, and development services to ensure a viable, livable, and equitable Dubuque. This is our organization chart. We are 8.38 full-time equivalents. That 0.38 is an intern that we have seasonally that helps assist us quite a bit with historic preservation and some other administrative duties in our office. But we have three major activities: the development services, city planning, and historic preservation. And we have planners that help assist with one or multiple activities for that. Here's our staff. Once again, we're 8.38. We are mighty 8. We do a lot, as you'll see as we go through our presentation. I'm the Planning Services Director, Sheena Moon, our Associate Planner. And then we have Travis Schroebelgen, Jason Duba, Chris Happ-Olson as our Assistant Planners, Charlie Miller, our Zoning Enforcement Officer, who no one ever likes to see, but we get to have conversations with him.
We do. Yeah.
And then our Planning Technician, Matt O'Brien, and then Renee Blosch, our Administrative Assistant. So not only are we a staff of 8, but we also talk about all of our boards and commissions. So our department is probably the most heavily used department when it comes to the boards and commissions. We have 28 appointed volunteers. We have our Zoning Board of Adjustment, as you can see the members that are there, and then also our Zoning Advisory Commission. We have a heartfelt thank you to all of our amazing volunteers, because literally we cannot do work. They're appointed, there's reasons for it. Everything they get involved with is based on state law. Same thing with our Historic Preservation Commission and our Long Range Planning Advisory Commission. So just want to recognize those individuals for their service to our community. And then also our members that are no longer with us, they've retired, decided to step and go on to different directions. So thank you to these people who've spent their time to help move forward with our Historic Preservation and our Long Range Planning Advisory Commission. Not only do we have those boards and commissions, we do have two design review committees. The Port Dubuque Design Review Committee, which we get involved with design review located in the Port of Dubuque, but then also we have the Chaplain Schmidt Island Design Review Committee as we look at development and anything from site plans to the Key Hotel or the Iowa Amphitheater or the merge development down in the Port of Dubuque. Our first major activity we're going to talk about is city planning. We provide staff to that Long Range Planning Advisory Commission. We work with engaging the community development partnerships and implementing our Imagine Dubuque comprehensive plan. And we do track our annexation study. We have 40,000 acres in potential growth area outside our boundaries. And we have 171 pre-annexation agreements, 4,089 acres actually that have agreed to eventually be annexed in the city if we need to in the future or if we have connectivity. That Long Range Planning Advisory Commission, a lot of things that you'll see from them is actually all those creation of those new urban revitalization districts for tax abatement, new urban renewal districts. They review and make a recommendation that goes on to the City Council that the Housing and Community Development Department would take forth for the urban revitalization district. And then you'll see the Economic Development Department for those TIF districts, if they're residential, might be housing, urban renewal, economic development, then you'll probably be hearing from Ian Knapp also later tonight with regards to those. Updating our existing and future land use maps, and then talking about our vacant and developable land and inventory. So Imagine Dubuque, comprehensive plan. It's our guiding our guiding document to help with budgeting decisions, land use decisions. It's that whole comprehensive plan that covers all departments in our community. It's our voice, our citizens telling us what they would like to see and move forward. Our office is in charge of administering that, and we're doing that as part of a collective impact model, which gets involved with this connectors, coordinators, and champions. Those connectors are our department managers, and then we have our coordinators, which are maybe various people from leadership team or other community partners. And then those champions are individuals, city staff members, or community partners, which help move forward 7 plan categories, all these sub-core categories, and then those 110 recommendations. And we have a great software, it's called Achieve It, which you guys see when we look at city council priorities. We were the next group to step in and used with our Imagine Dubuque plan. And as we continue to use Achieve It, to look at cross-correlation and things that overlap, is something that we use quite a bit, and we do get quarterly updates for those. Development services, we work on fostering partnerships and, working on the coordination of sustainable development. We're staffed to the Zoning Board of Adjustment and the Zoning Advisory Commission, and we facilitate and coordinate that development review team that we talk about all the time when we come before you for the rezonings. These are 2 images. This is a part of a multi-tenant building located out on Stone Valley with Portson, and then the Key City Hotel that's currently under construction. So let's talk about that development review team. It's expanded over the years. So the Planning and Zoning Department, Planning Services Department, we're the overseeing department for that. We help facilitate that entire review. The core members are what you see outlined in that light blue: engineering, water department, inspections, construction services, and fire department. But then we also have these other departments that show up to the meeting. So economic development, parks and recreation, health services, city manager's office, public works. But the other thing we also do is we invite private utilities and the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation to be part of those discussions too. So it's a well-rounded development review team. Most communities don't have the private utilities at those meetings, but we offer it to them. So they're present, and not only are they hearing what we're talking about with development, it's great to have the private utilities company there too, to be able to discuss that with potential developers. This is kind of a list of all the approved development. We've kind of chart that by year. If you look for fiscal year 2024 and you look, that number is a little low, 298,207. Well, that's actually 34 site plans that have been reviewed. We haven't had like a very large major scale development, like a large warehouse. This is everything from the Connie Hammett Butler Child Care Center to 3 aircraft hangars that were built out at the airport. We have the Emory Apartments, multiple apartments on Lake Ridge Drive, Stacks Merged Development. Quick Start has a couple of gas stations that were reviewed. The Key Hotel. Those are just a fraction of site plans that were reviewed and approved in fiscal year 2024. We also get involved with residential approvals. So here's some just examples of those that you've seen. The Emory Apartments, which are currently under construction. Those are 48 apartments that are workforce housing. And then we have Lake Ridge Drive Apartments, 42 market rate apartments, and then the Stacks, which is actually a mixed-use development with 187 apartment units. They'll wrap around the parking ramp down in the Port of Dubuque. This is something that I track every month, so this gets updated regularly, and I believe you guys get copies. This gets provided to you guys. We're just tracking, where we're at with residential units. We're talking about 1,100 by 2030. And like I always say, just because it's on here doesn't necessarily means it's going to be approved, but we do track what's actually been constructed, what's been approved, what's under construction, and then we even put in there, those conversations that we're starting to have with those various developers. One of the large tasks that we have in our office right now is the Unified Development Code update. So I just want to touch on here and with this to talk about just our outreach that you will be seeing in the future. We'll be talking about that technical report presentation to the Zoning Advisory Commission and City Council, as you see at the bottom. But we did a public survey. We reached out to 264 responses, came in with that public survey, which was great information for our consultant and our planning department. The technical survey was 46 responses. So those are actually development development professionals. It's kind of that developers roundtable individuals that we talk to. We get that input back. And then we actually had a stakeholder meeting on January 28th with engineers, architects, and surveyors and design professionals. And then the consultant actually invited 52 individuals to have an opportunity to sit down one-on-one and talk to her specifically about our Unified Development Code, what's working, what's not working. So there's been quite a bit of outreach for that, all being compiled together for this technical report that you'll be seeing here within the next month. We do track our Zoning Advisory Commission cases, so you can see up here kind of that breakdown. We geocode all those locations on that GIS map off to the left there. Just kind of shows you the number of cases that are located in our CDBG eligible districts and our total number of cases. But then also the breakdown of those types of Zoning Advisory Commission cases that you see. Site plan waivers do not come to the Zoning Advisory Commission. Those will just be handled at to the City Council, excuse me. So the site plan waivers are just reviewed by the Zoning Advisory Commission. So, Zoning Board of Adjustment, quasi-judicial board, their decisions are final. You do not see those decisions. You can see their minutes and appoint the board members, but that is the current breakdown that we did for fiscal year 24, which is 59 ZBA cases, which is the highest that we've had within the past 5 years. Here's our breakdown with our zoning enforcement officer. These are all the cases that Charlie Miller gets involved with. You can see abundance of his enforcement cases involve improper vehicle storage. We do work with the police department and the engineering department with various aspects of where vehicles are stored, if they're on the street, on private property, or in the public right-of-way. Zoning issues get involved with maybe illegal home occupations, and inoperable vehicles and abandoned vehicles are another topic that Charlie gets involved with. So historic preservation is our other major activity. We do provide staff support to the commission, and we conduct research on many projects, which I'll talk about in a little bit here. But we do facilitate that Section 106 process with the state of Iowa for housing rehab projects citywide, but also the 106 review projects, which you'll see in a future slide here, where we worked, for instance, with the Parks Department as like a Comiskey Park, because there's federal funding involved with that. So there's some archaeology and impacts to historic properties. But then also last night, you just heard from Chris Lester about the lead line service replacement and the requirements for the State Historic Preservation Office for archaeology and methods to help minimize that. So those are things that we assist other departments with. But these are some pictures of our Ken Kringle Award winners, some before and afters of buildings in our community. Wrong way. And then just once again, we track the total number of properties that are located in our historic districts, conservation districts, National Register districts. And then we do track in this case, $10.4 million investment has happened in our historic and downtown neighborhoods in fiscal year 2024. These are a number of cases that our Historic Preservation Commission and staff have reviewed. And you can see that large red shading there is primarily those Section 106 reviews, which is very important for a certain topic I'll mention here coming up. And all those neighborhood resource surveys. So we've had some outreach events with regards to the Deerville neighborhood, and then our Volker Highlands property. Those are CLG grants that we apply through the state to get funding in order to help document the history of our community. And then also the Black Heritage Survey, which Chris Happolson, our historic preservation planner, has been doing an awesome job. A lot of outreach, 18 outreach events engaging 957 individuals. She's presented at local conferences and national conferences. We talk about enriching the Juneteenth celebrations and then outreach to city staff and local nonprofits. We're one of the, so our department actually does a customer service satisfaction survey. We did have 39 survey responses, so we track that every year just to kind of give you a rating of what we have. And this next slide just kind of provides you some of those comments that we received. So, for instance, one was, I was extremely pleased with the communication and ease of application follow-up. Travis was timely and helpful in his responses, which was especially important as this was my first time going through the process. We have other ones where Jason helped me with necessary paperwork and explained the whole process. At the board meeting, Jason and Sheena had all my information ready for the board members. Jason and Sheena were outstanding. The city has 2 excellent employees in them too. Again, thank you, Jason and Sheena. So several comments that we receive, and it's just great that we have the ability to track, and we want to get results back from individuals and identify, how we're doing with the public. So not only are we an outward-facing department where people see us working with those boards and commissions and the comprehensive plan, but we are definitely an inward-facing department. We do assist all these departments in the city of Dubuque. This is not a complete comprehensive list of everything that we get involved with them, but like I say, the planning department gets our fingers in everyone's business. So there's not one department that what they work on is something that's not directly associated with what we do in our office in the planning services department. Our fiscal year 2025 highlights, we have a historic structures report from Eagle Point Park that we're finishing up. Those certified local government grants for those neighborhood surveys that we've done. Big focus on increasing housing units, new construction and rehabilitation as we move forward with that, trying to meet our demand. State Historic Preservation Office, programmatic agreement. That's a big one. So what that means is the state has enough confidence in our staff and qualifications that says, Dubuque, we trust you to be able to do historical reviews, document them on behalf of HUD and put them in a file. Instead of having to prepare all the documentation, send it to the State Historic Preservation Office, they have to review and approve it, then sends it back to us. That's a time delay. So this programmatic agreement is basically an agreement that says you will do this and your staff is qualified enough to do it. So we're actually going to be one of the first ones in the state of Iowa to receive that. So we're super, super pumped about that. So, and then Chaplain Schmidt Island Development Plan, as we look at focusing on that island and working with the DRA and the Q and all the other property owners on that island as we move forward to future development on the Chaplain Schmidt. Future initiatives, we're going to be starting this probably within the next week or two. A downtown intensive land use analysis, especially with the announcement of the University of Dubuque and their medical college campus downtown. This will entail we know what the land use of the downtown is, but this is going to be very specific on, what's upper story units. Are they vacant? Are they being used? What's the current property? Is it retail? What type of property use is being in that building? Helping identify those things where our economic development department or Greater Dubuque Development Corporation we can go out to meet with property owners and say, why aren't you using that upper story? Why is it vacant? Is it a funding issue? Is it a building code, zoning issue? Is it you just don't want to be a landlord? Is there opportunities maybe to condo out your building? So I'm trying to focus because we want to create that greater density in our downtown to make it more vibrant. We're working on the historic Millwork District public open space. That's the temporary parking lot being converted to that space. We'll obviously continue to implement our Imagine Dubuque comprehensive plan, increasing housing units. We're also working on implementation of our Citizen Serve plan review software. So our city clerks and the Housing Community Development Department with rental licenses and building permits are going through that process. Our next step for us will be site plan review software to help us with tracking all those DRT reviews. And then also we're looking at an evaluation of our downtown master plan. As you move forward with our city council goal setting, this will be something that will come from our planning department as a future ask probably in fiscal year 27 to focus on doing an updated downtown master plan, which was last done in about 2000. This is our fiscal year 2026 requested property tax support breakdown, as you can see. When we talk about public safety, there's a lot of things in our office that gets involved with. We're a regulatory department. So zoning regulations, when we talk about setbacks, fire separation, light ventilation, building standards for designs of buildings. We talk about bike and pedestrian planning, looking at trail access and traffic and how that interacts with each other. Floodplain management, making sure development isn't happening in the floodplain. And if there are things happening in the floodplain, we are the regulatory department that has to go out and enforce that. Zoning enforcement, as we look at trying to keep our areas not have a negative impact on certain developments, like junkyards or tidiness of properties. And then that development review and coordination that you guys are very familiar with the DRT. So our recommended improvement requests, so we have Dubuque Safe Routes to School bike gear. This is the purchase bike helmets and some bike locks in order to distribute as part of that Safe Routes to School project that our Jason Duba is very active involved with. It helps coordinate with the city. And then also our planning increase fees. We are looking to raise our fees based on our cost of service to do so. It'd be about $1,533 for this year. We raised them last fiscal year. But we also talk about having equitable fines and fees, so we have a special exception. Those are those residential variances in our, typically our CDBG targeted areas in order to keep that fee down a little bit lower. So we want to encourage people to redevelop. We don't want to have a burden of having too high of a fee with them that would prohibit them from maybe making an improvement to their property. And as we go through our performance measures, we track, how we're doing on review and approval to our boards and commissions, how many inspections that we've done on properties to bring them in compliance from the development services side. City planning, we track how Imagine Dubuque is going with that Achieve It software. We give you an update every August right before you do your city council goal setting. And then our last one that we have on here is historic preservation. Once again, tracking how long it takes us to do a design review with historic preservation and that investment in our downtown and historic neighborhoods. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much, Wally. We are in public hearing to discuss the planning department budget for fiscal year 26. Do we have any public input on this item this evening? Seeing none here. Anything virtually? All right. Back to us then.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
Gotta say, you mentioned that nobody likes to see Charlie coming. I like to see him coming. And I'll tell you why. Zoning enforcement's touchy. It's very human, the way we deliver it. And one of the measures of success that you don't think about is, I've been sitting here for a long time. I've never had one call complaining about the zoning enforcement officer or the way that a citizen was approached. And I know Charlie, he's been a friend for a long time. I know how he approaches problems. Let's get together and solve this together is kind of his modus operandi. And it's not just him, it's your whole department. And I really have a high regard for everybody that works with you.
Thank
And
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, Ms. Whittle.
The Safe Routes to School, I know it's kind of a little piece here, but at the, Jason is at a lot of events where families are, and he creates a lot of great education. And so I'm really glad to see this there. I think it's a really important safety piece and he's always in the great places to do education. And so to have those abilities to distribute something really important like that, it's wonderful. He knows the crowd and he knows how to talk with kids and does a great job. I'm just blown away that with 8.38 people, you do what you do. So I salute you. You are just an incredibly important piece of so many puzzles at the city. We are not siloed, but you guys take that to another level. The idea that you are now part of the programmatic agreement, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's really impressive, and I'm excited to hear more about that as the process goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Farber.
So I echo what Ms. Bethel has just said, and also I find that you have an outstanding in chart number 30, all the touch points of your internal customers and then all the touch points on your external customers here within the community, and it's just amazing. It's like you're on your own little planet, if you will, in terms of all of the things that your stratosphere here is just incredible, all that you do. And I agree that with that 8.5 people that you're really above and beyond in all that you do, and greatly appreciate especially what you do for historic preservation, because that's so important, and especially in that downtown district that we're going to be infilling and recreating some energy down there to live, work, and play. I think it's just very important that you're helping with Heritage Works and all the work that we do there for historic tax credits and to make sure that the integrity of the history of the building inventory, and you said that there was 2,000 that we inventory more so than the broader number,
Yeah, we have 6,000 actually.
6,000 that we inventory?
Yes, yeah. If I can just touch on it. So we're a certified local government, so we're required to keep a registry of all of our properties. So anytime we get involved with any federal funding, there's a Section 106 review that gets involved with. We're almost writing basically a National Register nomination, researching that property. And Chris and Matt O'Brien, our planning technician, and then our intern, Kate Getz, helps assist us with that. And as we document that, we have that as a resource. One other thing that we've also done is when I came here 20-some years ago, everything was put in a paper file and thrown in, in a file. So we made almost all of our stuff electronically available. We worked with the library to get all of the city directories, all of our surveys, all that information out there. So when people do contact us, we have the ability to say, hey, here's an opportunity. We may know about your home, and it's really exciting because we do have people contact us from around the world that say, hey, I can pull it right up here and find out the history of, we probably have something in every one of your guys' houses, to be honest with you.
Part of the benefit and the uniqueness of Dubuque, actually. And just a shout out to Chris for all that she does for historic preservation, because I see her out and about on a very regular basis. So thank you for being internally and externally focused.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I got a couple things, Wally. So the State Historic Preservation Office agreement, that's awesome. The Downtown Intensive Land Use Analysis, very excited to hear more about that as we get ready for goal setting. That's going to be really interesting to hear about. And then thank you for tracking customer service the way that you do. You've been doing that for a while now, and I saw 30 plus responses that you currently have. What a great resource for your department and for everybody to be able to understand kind of what's going on. And then obviously if things aren't going well, you can immediately react to that. So that's, I think, incredibly helpful. Definitely going to look up my house. So thank you for that, that notice there. I want to ask more about the universal, is it the development code, the universal development code?
Unified Development
Unified,
Code.
sorry, yeah,
Yes.
wrong word.
Yep.
Unified Development Code. You said we're going to be hearing about it pretty soon. Can you give us a little bit more about the timeline and the next steps and what we can expect for that?
Yeah, so we have a contract with Camaros, which you guys approved about over a year ago. It's a 1.5-year process. So at this very beginning, with that public survey, technical survey, stakeholder groups, and all that information, Camaros has sat down and has done their analysis of our existing code and what they've heard from the public and all that outreach. They've compiled all that information into what they call a technical report, which is basically certain things that they've seen that could be improved upon, certain things that we're hearing from our community. They had conversation with existing staff of things that we could look at with modifying our Unified Development Code. One big thing we talked about specifically with our Unified Development Code is, and from the development community, is if there's a barrier, we want to talk about it. Is there an ability to remove a barrier in order to help make sure we're moving development forward, while still also keeping in mind that we need to protect property values, aesthetics, and everything that's associated with it. So that Unified Development Code technical report will be coming out here. We'll go to the Zoning Advisory Commission and then bring it to the City Council. At that presentation, you'll hear about all the survey results from the survey, and then that detailed analysis of items that have been identified that are big ticketed items where we're going to start from before we move forward to actually getting into the nitty-gritty details of the code itself. The entire process will be ending in March of 2026. So that technical report, once we go through the Zoning Advisory Commission and City Council, will then be posted out there for public comment. So we'll be able to get all that information from that. So there's a lot of opportunity for engagement in our community on that Unified Development Code, because it is that guiding document where it has teeth. It's an ordinance, so there's rules and regulations. We're also looking at how we can have a lot of ability to do administrative reviews if we can, and have to take them through a process in order to move things forward. So that will be going over the next few months for that course. So we'll be definitely looking at doing a work session when we present that to you guys. So.
Great. That's very helpful to know the whole timeline there, and kind of shooting for around this time next year is the ending date, more or less. Yeah.
The other thing is we do have a website, project website. It's cityofdubuque.org/UDC update. So anyone on there can post a comment. They can still answer the survey. We kept that survey open, and then also They have the ability to log in, put their name in, and anytime we update information on that website, they'll be emailed directly. So there's opportunities where we'll have public input, so they'll be notified that way, besides us physically sending information out. It's just a great way for someone, if they want to be apprised of what's going on, to be able to log into that, so.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, if there are no further questions, thank you for the presentation and thanks for spending so much time with us all the time. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, well, moving on then. We are actually at economic development, so this is where we'll give Jill and Ian and anybody an opportunity to answer the question from the previous public hearing. So we'll just kind of loop that in, unless you have an answer.
Could I give it a try?
Please, yeah.
Absolutely. So both Jill and Rick Dickinson from Greater Dubuque Development Corporation jumped in to give me a little bit of context. As I mentioned, this funding was related to an initiative that used to be known as True North, and we don't use that brand anymore. Today, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation uses that funding for strategic initiatives that currently include housing and childcare. So contracts for these contracted services come to you all in July each year, and we will make sure that we update the language in there and the scope of services to more accurately reflect what's happening.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So that pretty much answers that question entirely. Okay. So with that, Ian, I believe you are advancing slides and Jill is presenting. Is that correct? So we're kind of tag teaming.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
excellent. All right, well, Jill, we are ready for you.
I think Ian was going to introduce himself, but I'll jump right in.
Well, let's
and
let Ian
share with
introduce
you.
himself then. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Assistant Economic Development Director, Ian Hatch.
All right, thank you, Ian. Sorry about that. Please, Jill.
All right. The Economic Development Department delivers programming that ensures that the economic and social health of the community is addressed, and we partner with private sector and nonprofit organizations, and we'll talk about that when we get to the listing of our contracted service agreement that Corey touched on as well. And our current programming focuses on job-related opportunities, cultivating arts and culture scene, uh, housing option creation, and to attract and retain residents, and generally to expand the tax base. Next slide. You can see that we operate with very few humans. 3 of us are full-time, myself, Ian, and Bonnie Sperling, our Arts and Cultural Affairs Manager. We've got Cindy Kramer on board as a half-time confidential account clerk, and then Michael Williams is our quarter-time intern supporting Bonnie. Now here we are on a windy day. With in the background is 1199 Central Avenue, which was the recipient of some both grant and loan funds from our department. On the left is Cindy Kramer, our admin staff, as I mentioned, Ian Hatch, Bonnie Sperling, and myself. Our goals include what's listed here. We have a huge focus on housing right now because we know that we can't grow our population, and thus our tax base, unless we've got enough housing for everyone. We work on business attraction and expansion, small business support, workforce development through some of the contracts that we have. We've worked quite a bit the past couple of years on childcare access, connected community through high-speed broadband, and then, like mentioned before, focusing on the quality of life in the community through arts and culture support. Our requested property tax support is just shy of $1.5 million, which is about $23 per homeowner for the work that we do. So you get 5 humans for $23. I think that's a pretty good deal for our taxpayers. We wanted to be sure that we shared some of the safety that comes into place in the community based on the work that we do. The housing that we create, a lot of it ends up in the downtown area, and we know that creating housing in a downtown makes it more walkable because of the increased density and more pedestrians deter crime. And then as of late, probably the last year and a half, I would say in our development agreements, we require that the developer include, that they install, excuse me, security cameras on the exterior of their buildings and then register that with our police department so that the police know if if something happens in an area, they can look on their list and say, oh, who in the area has cameras? And then they can request to see footage. That's always optional. The property owner can decline, but we do put that in there so that we know where we've got eyes on the city. We use tax increment financing for essentially everything that we do, all of the grants that come out of our department, all of the development agreements, most of them, I would say, probably all of them, include tax incentives that are provided through the TIF programming. And you can see here, we've gone through this before, but the blue section of the shape is the tax base, what the property is worth going into a project. That same amount gets shared the whole life of a development agreement with all of the taxing bodies, so nobody's losing anything. We take the yellow portion, which is the increased value of the property, and use that to fund the actual incentive for the developer. And then once we get to the end of the life of the agreement, then you see the property values have gone up to the point where we've got a much bigger piece of pie to share with all of the taxing bodies. We use that to create jobs. You want to go back just one second. To create jobs, we leverage private investment by using that. It creates a lot of housing, rehabbing the downtown, which helps eliminate slum and blight. And we also use the tax increment. When we get to that orange part, you see we have so much more that we can work with in order to use it for public improvements such as roads and utilities. Thanks. As I mentioned, TIF leverages private investment. We've had 125 TIF projects over the past 30 years. It's involved $154 million in public investment, but that has generated $1.1 billion in private investment, meaning that every dollar that the city's putting in is leveraging $13.50 of additional investment. So that's really good bang for the buck. And you can see that we've also created and retained over 10,000 jobs in those 30 years. In this past fiscal year, we've entered into 15 development agreements and one grant agreement. The difference between a development agreement and a grant agreement, the grant one is a bit simpler, simply because it doesn't include any tax incentives. This has incentivized over $167 million in private investment, creating and retaining 60 jobs and creating 158 new rental units, including, you'll see the photos here. This is 346, 348 West Locust Street, and we just went over there to visit a week or two ago. A couple of you on council were able to visit as well. This was a property that was sold to the developer for $1 quite a number of years ago, and they've just done a great job restoring it. They're bringing it back to life right next to another building that they own. They're having absolutely no problem filling those apartments. People are clamoring for them. They're really nicely done. Obviously, in economic development, we work to reduce poverty. And you can see on this slide here, if you start at the top and just kind of fall to the left here, we address economic insecurity. We, through that, touch on generational and situational poverty, addressing that through our workforce efforts, et cetera. As I mentioned, we focus on childcare and on housing. So that kind of loops us down the whole left-hand side to address those determinants of poverty. Next, please. So when we look at economic prosperity across the community, again, here are the touch points that we have: creating affordable housing, providing access to quality, affordable childcare, working with through Greater Dubuque Development on the Opportunity Dubuque program, which is job training. We focus on, have conversations a lot about transportation to jobs and training, fiber to homes and businesses, and we'll touch on that specifically in just a minute here. We provide small business support through a grant program, and then also provide access to arts and cultural experiences as well through our arts grant programs. That picture is of the new Bright Minds facility, which is out on 7900 Chavanel, and Ian's going to give you a bit more information about that in a couple of slides. The Small Business Support Grant Program has been wildly successful. In the current fiscal year, we've had 10 participants. We had 4 participants last fall, and you can see a quote here from one of the participants from last fall. He's just grown his business enormously just in the last 6 months since completing that program. That program provided $5,000 in reimbursements for eligible costs. He's expanded his client base with 90% of them returning, which is a crazy high number. He's reduced his client wait times. He's got 23 new clients, just got efficiencies throughout. And he's very grateful for the program and the mentoring that went with it to help them grow and succeed in their business. Next, please. And here you can see around the table just last week, this is a photo from what we're calling the 2.0 program. These individuals participated in past years in the original grant programming, and they're coming in now kind of for that next step. Okay, you've already had that first grant. Now you're a couple years down the road. Now what do you need? So we reached out to to everybody who's gone through the grant program already. We let them help design a program that would be impactful. So we asked them, what topics do you need to learn more about? So we took all of their input and then created a program around that. And then all of the individuals that have gone through the grant program in the past were offered the opportunity to apply for the program. And 6 of them were brought into the program, and they're working on that now. The different areas of town that we focus on, not most of it, a lot of it is in the downtown area, Central Avenue corridor in particular, the historic Millwork District, now North and South Ports and Kerper Boulevard. There's been a lot of focus on Chaplet Schmidt Island the past couple of years. Our industrial parks on the west end, as well as the tech park to the south. In the downtown area, we've got some numbers here from Dubuque Main Street that they provide. You can see all of the investment that there's been in our downtown area since they began their programming in 1985, which was 40 years ago. So that's exciting that they're celebrating their 40th year. But you can see there's been over $1.2 billion in improvements in the downtown during their existence and through partnership with the city and other organizations, and of course, the private sector. And you can see that over 4,000 jobs have been added to the downtown in that time as well. Uh, we also want to talk about infrastructure improvements that support economic development. Um, like I mentioned, we've got Central Avenue where we're focusing. There's going to be some corridor improvements there that are being presented to you through the engineering department. We've got a $131 million project going through the engineering department as well for sanitary sewer expansion throughout the community to help us support continued economic development. And then the water department as well has some projects coming up. So you can see the amount of funding that's being spent in the coming years, or that's being recommended to spend in the coming years in order to help our community grow. thanks to Wally and all of the work that he does with all of our developers and all of the gathering of information that he does, we know that there are over 2,400 housing units in some state of development, whether they've submitted plans, are underway, have recently completed. Wally's got a whole list of those, but we're really excited that we've got this number of housing units being envisioned and or undertaken already. It's really going to make a difference in being able to increase our population. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ian. The city manager has appointed Ian, and Ian has graciously accepted to be the point person on all things Central Avenue. So he's connecting a lot, both internally and externally, to make sure that there's communication and coordination of all of the efforts that are happening on Central Avenue.
Thank you, Jill. Yes, so the revitalization of Central Avenue is a top priority for the City Council. Our office is actively engaging with businesses and developers to hear their concerns, identify any barriers there might be to redevelopment, and recommend any policy modifications as needed in order to spur additional development. As a result of that, in fiscal year 2025, we anticipate agreements to create over 70 new residential rental units along the corridor, as well as the rehabilitation of 5 new commercial storefronts. Our office is also coordinating communication with partners and stakeholders to both inform and collaborate on city efforts like the Central and White Street Traffic Implementation Plan, but also for stakeholder needs and requests such as beautification efforts, benches and trash receptacles, as well as that general sense of safety along the corridor. One of our strong partners is Dubuque Initiatives. Dubuque Initiatives is a local private nonprofit. They've really been supporting local businesses, supporting redevelopment efforts on Central, as well as the revitalization of Chaplain Schmidt Island. To support local businesses in the wake of the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, when a lot of our small businesses were forced to close and nobody knew what was going to happen the next day, Dubuque Initiative stepped up and started bridge loan financing for those small businesses in order to keep them afloat while they waited for federal relief funding. And that program just closed, and so they made over 80 loans to those small businesses. They're also working with local entrepreneurs and property owners on lease support opportunities in order to fill those vacant storefronts along Central. And they're assisting in financing for research and development of a marketing plan, and that's going to be meant to support and promote those businesses along the corridor. General efforts on Central include working with developers and financial institutions to leverage the capital they have in order to advance those kind of smaller, riskier projects that really make a difference when we're looking at the overall revitalization picture. And then also they have been supporting the Chaplain Schmidt Island revitalization. Dubuque Initiatives was a critical piece of financing in securing that rooftop restaurant that's going to go on the new Key City Hotel, as well as they made a loan to the Dubuque Racing Association for the sports complex feasibility study that became available to the whole public. Another area that Dubuque Initiatives is working in is childcare. Their approach is sort of twofold. They're both having efforts to grow childcare accessibility and availability while also working to bolster the childcare workforce in order to meet that new capacity. They previously completed phase 1 of the Bright Minds Learning Campus. Phase 2 is underway. That's going to start at the end of this month. So we'll see that's going to create additional capacity. And beneath that, we have all the partners that made that project possible. And then as far as the childcare workforce development, Dubuque Initiatives partnered with the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation to recruit champions for childcare contributions from the business community. And then this went toward increasing the workforce participation in the industry. And as you can see, it also increased the capacity overall. And I'll turn it back over to Jill.
Thanks, Ian. As mentioned earlier, we've got high-speed broadband all across the community. It's nearly complete, completely universal for homeowners and for our commercial clients. And, excuse me, we've got improved competition we used to have one carrier, two carriers, and now we've got over a dozen. So that's really a success in and of itself that there's competition now in town, which makes it more affordable. Um, affordability, in the past, there was funding to subsidize broadband accessibility for lower income households. That has gone away. Uh, but we're doing our best to to get the competition, like I mentioned, so that we can make this available to everyone. Next, please. We also talked earlier about workforce development. We partner with Greater Dubuque Development, who in turn partners with Northeast Iowa Community College with a program called Opportunity Dubuque. And if you look over the life of this program, you can see the success that we've had here and the number of participants that have gone through. There have been over 1,000 students go through this program. And out of those, in a follow-up, we were able to contact nearly 700 of them. And of those 700, we were able to find 93% of them were either employed or continuing their education. So we think that's a great success rate and a good reason to keep partnering with Greater Dubuque and NICC. Next, please. And here's a list of all of the partners that work on workforce development efforts here in the city. Next. We talked about our contracted services, like I mentioned that Corey had brought up earlier, and that there was a slight increase. You'll see all of the partners we have here that we support. And the one increase is for Travel Dubuque, which is the Convention and Visitors Bureau. The reason for that increase is it's based on actual hotel motel tax revenue that comes in. They are provided 50% of that revenue through a contract that we have. That's the reason for that one increasing, because there has been that 9% increase in revenue. And next, we're going to hand this over to Bonnie Sperling to talk about the Arts and Cultural Affairs programming at the city.
Press the button for me. No, I'm just kidding. Which one do you push, though? Is that one? Just hit that, okay. Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh, City Council. My name is Bonnie Sperling, and I serve the City of Dubuque as the Arts and Cultural Affairs Manager. Tonight, I'm going to be just touching on where we are with our Arts and Culture Master Plan, some of the initiatives and partners that have come out of the plan, an update on our grant programs, where we are right now, and some other city-funded initiatives. See, I did it wrong, Ian. There we go. The Arts and Culture Master Plan was adopted in 2016, which puts us in year 9 of a 10-year plan. The plan made 76 recommendations with the goal of collaboration, ongoing community conversation, and volunteerism. The master plan originally consisted of 5 working groups, each focusing on different recommendations from the plan. Several of these groups have already completed their tasks, and others have had work absorbed by other community groups. Current work is being done by reinstated volunteer committees in the area of public art and infrastructure. I have a committee that's working on a temporary public art policy. Creative economy, artists and entrepreneurships. We've reinstated the creative cafes, and branding and communications, and this is the ongoing work of the Altogether Dubuque website. So a couple of the partnerships that have come out of the master plan that we've just kind of revitalized in the past couple of years have been a current partnership with Dubuque Forward. They have kind of taken the altogetherdubuque.com under their wing, this is a website for artists and arts organizations that connects the arts and culture community in Dubuque. They now are including a page with information on all of the First Fridays, and that's the current work that they're working on now. A partnership ongoing with the Dubuque Museum of Arts, with the Winter Arts Snow Sculpting Competition, as well as Dubuque Fest, festivals that are happening in Washington Park. I don't have that much to say. I just made my print really big. The Arts and Culture Operating Support Grants in FY25, we had 19 applications, and we were able to fund 16 of those for a total grant award of $249,883. This year, the grant is open right now, the operating support grant, and it ends on this Friday. So if anyone's listening, they better get hopping with their due date looming. But I can tell you, we already see a couple new organizations that are popping up, which is actually very exciting to see. This year, we kept the total grant amount at 6% or no more than $30,000 of an organization's operating budget. As you can see from the trend, even though our applicant number on the bottom of the chart has remained fairly consistent over the years, the amount of funding requests continues to increase while our available amount is remaining the same. And like I said just a few seconds ago, I already see some new organizations popping up there, so I would imagine that our red line is going to be even higher as we progress. In fiscal year 25, we introduced the biennial capacity building grant. We received 10 applications with a total request amount of $49,124. We were able to fully fund 7 of these organizations with a funding of $34,124. This year, for fiscal year 26, we are back to offering the special projects grant. Here's a quick look at some of our past grantees. As far as other funded city initiatives, we've reinstituted our Creatives Cafes, which are now held quarterly. There's one on this Thursday if anyone is interested in attending. The dates are in the upper right-hand corner of the slide, but the purpose of these cafes is to bring together local creatives and organizations from across the city to network and engage in creative conversations. Our hope is to continue to build a more connected network of Dubuque artists. Lastly, in 2024, our Art on the River exhibition, Culture and Conversation, accepted 51 applications from 31 artists. They were from 11 states and 2 countries, including the United States. This year, we've increased our applications. We had 61 applications from 40 different artists. We expanded our reach a little bit by reaching out to local arts organizations in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, just some that would be more within driving distance, just to reach out a little bit more and hopefully keep expanding that from year to year. They were from 11 states, but they weren't the same states. They were some different states. We still had one from India, but there were 2 from Germany this year, so that was a new expansion I haven't seen before. Back to you, Ian.
I'm going to take this one. Thanks,
Back to Jill.
Bunny. Yeah. We've got one improvement package here that's been recommended, and that's for a full-time position to play a role in supporting all of the work that we do with tax increment financing. We've increased the number of development agreements that we have quite significantly in the 10+ years that I've been at the city. It becomes additional work and more complex work just to track all of the moving pieces. And so we believed it was time to bring somebody on board specifically to keep an eye on the ball on all things TIF related. So that's the purpose of this full-time position request. They would work both with our department along with coordinating with finance and with the city attorney's office to make sure we're in compliance on all of the regulations, to make sure we've got good financial projections, et cetera. So that's the purpose of this position request. Next, please. If you look at our capital improvement projects, you can see that our requests are for $750,000 for our Greater Downtown Housing Creation Grant Program. That's the program that provides $10,000 per unit created in an existing building. So you can see that that's annually, we could support the creation of 75 units through that program. The small business grants, this is actually $12,000 to administer the program. As I mentioned, it's been a very successful grant program. We have been using CDBG funds to run that program. Those are no longer available to us, but the $12,000 request remains in here because just recently we've identified a couple of possible grants, external grants that we might be able to use for the actual business stipends, and then this would remain available to pay an organization to administer the program, which is what we currently do. We contract with Fountain of Youth to do that. Workforce development is portion of the funds that we use to partner with Greater Dubuque Development. Our downtown rehabilitation grant program, that's the $35,000 per project for facade design and financial consulting work. Next, please. We've got our Central Avenue Housing Forgivable Loan. That's also a $10,000 per unit program for housing creation, but it's specifically targeted to the Central Avenue corridor. And then a new CIP we've got is to provide alley lighting along the Central Avenue corridor as well. Next. I'm going to turn it back over to Ian to talk about our performance measures.
These are the annual target goals that we set for ourselves to measure the impact of our department and our work. As you can see, we're on track to meet all of these goals, including working with the businesses to incentivize expansion and additional job creation, rehabilitating vacant and dilapidated storefronts, creating new housing units, and then the participation in the workforce development programming. And then Bonnie.
Our goal has been met of the number of successful grant applications and the percentage increase from the prior year in employment opportunities. The goal not met is level of funding because they're always asking for more money and there's not more money. So.
And it's very hard work, but as we know, all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. So we wanted to let you know that we have a great time doing what we do. And we're open for questions.
Well, thank you very much, Jill. It's an odd line to use with Ian holding the sledgehammer in that picture there, but if you know the Shining reference. All right, we are in a public hearing to discuss the economic development budget for fiscal year 26. Do we have any public input on this one? Yes, please.
Clark Slows, 2925 Burlington Street. The comments I'm going to make, I didn't know if I should have made them during the planning portion or the development portion. The two of them really kind of at times blend together. And, I understand the need for, development incentives. If you don't, we're going to turn into, you seem to remember the times where, it was said the last person to leave Dubuque, turn out the lights. You don't want to turn into that. Kind of what kicked off my thing about, developers when there was a development that was going to connect up to West 32nd and the Northwest Arterial where they were kind of complaining about you don't need traffic studies, city should be taking over the streets. Then, the events in the newspaper where you had, some developers severely critical of the process. Wanting the city to take over infrastructure. The one thing I don't think developers realize is that, especially for streets, road use tax funds are based on population. And unless you're buying more gallons of gas or have a higher population, your fund may not grow with the demands that you are taking over. They need to realize that taxpayers aren't an ATM machine with unlimited funds for a developer. There's some give and take on both sides. And, with the Unified Development Code, that report that's coming out, it would be interesting to see, what the comments from, I'd say, you know, there were really two main developers that were highly critical of the city. What has been their opinion of the changes and of the process? You know, are they still, it kind of left a taste in my mouth that if, you know, you don't do it our way, we'll take our ball and go somewhere else. And kind of my attitude would be, okay, if that's the way you want to be, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I did apologize to Rick Dickinson because I told him, I said, some of my comments he may not agree with. He understands. We've had, you know, interesting conversations, you know, on this issue, and he has his opinion. I have mine. And I guess I will also apologize to the development people for the same reasons on that. It's just that, you know, it would be interesting to read that Unified Development Code report, you know, if it is made available to the public. My wife thinks I'm nuts for reading reports like that. Hey, it's what I do. I enjoy this stuff. Did some of that stuff for a living. So that's all I really got.
All right, thank you, Clark, for your comments. Seeing nobody else for public input here, any other virtual input? Okay, thank you both. All right, back to us then for discussion. Ms. Weffel.
I have one question. I know it's kind of a small piece here, but a couple years ago when I first started on council, we did an alley lighting walk through Central Avenue. And I know Chief Jensen was with us, Mike Van Milligan was there, and then a number of business owners who own property and reside on Central Avenue. The crux of it was that we need more lighting. And so I'm really glad to see this. I think there's a lot of value there. And Jill, maybe the question is best for you. It says that there is a $20,000 allotment, but that the total cost is $40,000. Could you just share where the other $20,000 comes from? Or sorry, Ian.
Oh, yeah, sure. Jill, I can talk about it. Yeah, so this is an initiative that came out of that increased engagement with the residents, the businesses, and the developers in the area. They feel like it's not safe, so we're giving everyone the opportunity to increase the lighting and to make it feel safer. And so the first $20,000 is going to be, you know, for this fiscal year, and then it's either 10,000 and 10,000, or it's just one more round of 20,000. We're going to see how it goes, targeting 14th to 17th, and then maybe expand it.
Wonderful, thank you.
Others?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Russell.
I have a question. I think maybe it's a Mike question. I'm glad to see that there was a position approved for the economic development team to handle TIF, because we have been so successful with our use of TIF. However, the state is talking a lot about taking that tool away from us. And I was just wondering if we are confident that that tool will be there to fund the 75% of this position, or if we have any concerns on that front.
Well, thank you for the question, Mike Van Milligan. So, of course, we don't know. And what we do know, though, is before July 1st, the legislative session will have ended. And so we'll know what the law is. And if they do restrict the use of tax increment financing, we'll have to do the calculations. And it wouldn't just impact this position, it would impact a whole lot of things. You know, a lot of the financing for the $24 million for the Five Flags renovation is TIF based. A lot of the financing of the $9 million for Central Avenue is TIF based. And I could just go on and on and on. So we will know before July 1st what the law says. And if they make a major change, we're going to have to come back to you with some budget amendments. If they turn it into a study or legislation next year, we'll of course just move along as is approved. and then try and influence the legislation so that it's not too damaging to the city of Dubuque.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Yeah, Ms. Bethel, go ahead.
I appreciate Councilmember Roussell's question on that. I think it's in a time in which we're really having a difficult time predicting the future and no crystal balls are available. We have to do our best to provide for what we know will work for us now. And I appreciate that if we need to amend our budget in the future because of a change that the Iowa legislature feels they need to make, I want to do our best to show them how good we are at what we do. And I think advancing this this position makes sense because I think it'll help us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I would add to that piece of it, and then I have a follow-up, a different question, actually, something unrelated. But you know, yeah, that's a good point. We can't predict the future. We need to focus on now. We need to do those things. And I want to make it clear as we look at this position, because I think it could be misinterpreted. You know, this position isn't required because we're overusing TIF as a tool. This position has been required for a while, probably. We are just adding to that now in that what this does is it's not just an economic development position. It also works with finance, works with planning. It's going to be something that's going to be mixing in and trying to organize all of this, because it's going through all the development that we're going through is unwieldy for your very tiny but very mighty department. And I think that we need something that's going to be able to help coordinate all that. So I think the position makes sense. I trust your judgment as a economic development team to come up with what the best solution is for this. So I think it's a good addition as a position goes. I have an unrelated question, and it relates to page 79. I'm sure it's a simple answer, but I was just thumbing through and I was curious what it was. There's a line for special events in the expenses, and it went up in a fairly large amount, from $3,600 to $42,000. I'm just curious what accounts for that. I just noticed it when I was looking through things.
Jenny, do you have that information? That seems extreme. I mean, we have a special special grant project, which is $35,000, but that's not an economic development line item. It's an arts line item.
Yeah, if you would, and I guess another related question is the DC fly-in in your budget, Jill?
Yes.
Okay, where is that located?
Yeah, that's a travel budget.
It's in the travel portion. Okay, I was
Yes.
just curious if maybe it was in there.
Right.
And if we want to do the same thing here, you know, Jennifer, if you're going to look that up, if we want to continue on while you're researching that, we can come back to the answer. Yeah, if you want to do that. Okay. All right. Is there anything else for Jill or Ian or Bonnie currently? Okay. Then in that case, thank you very much for the presentation. I think there's just so much happening with economic development for a department your size, and I do always appreciate the work that you're doing. So thank you very much for giving us all that information tonight.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thanks. And
Oh, go
glad
ahead.
we could
Yeah.
make the arrangements remotely with Laura and I being out here in Philadelphia for the National Main Street Conference. It's a really good conference, and I'm glad that we were able to participate out here.
Yeah, we are too. Thank you very much. And thanks for taking the time to be here. I know it's not fun to attend these meetings from a hotel room, so we appreciate you taking that time to do that.
That's all right. Thanks.
Okay, we are going to transition one final time tonight to the, it is, but you can't really research stuff while you're giving the presentation. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. We'll get the answer later. We'll make sure we get the answer later.
We have an answer.
Okay.
We're trying to confer with economic development. It is related to Art on the River. The increase is due to reallocating from another line item. It was previously reported under technical services.
I see.
And now moved to special events to better describe the Art on the River expenses.
Got it. All right. So we've moved some money from one line to
Yep.
another. in a way that it makes sense more to say that it's a special event, it's not technical services, is what you said?
Right, which
Yeah.
would be like software and
Sure.
other
Sure, okay.
computer.
Yeah, totally explainable then. Thank you very much. Thanks for the answer. Okay, now we can officially move on to our final public hearing of the night, the Finance Department. So Jennifer, whenever you're ready, we're ready for you.
All right. Okay, good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Jennifer Larson, Chief Financial Officer, here to present on the Finance Department budget. So right on the first slide, we did have a department name change. So we were previously known as the Finance and Budget Department, now simplified to the Finance Department. So just wanted to note that recent change. Our mission and vision statement, they were both written by employees of the department. And I just want to point out, emphasize, we do not work without strong communication, support, and teamwork internally and with the external departments that we work with. So finance works with all city departments, so that is very important. Summarizing what we do in finance, there's a lot that happens in our department, everything from financial policies, our weekly vendor check runs, risk management, utility billing, legislative analysis. Typically, if it has numbers, we're working on it. I did want to mention a couple of retirements. One actually already happened. Our utility billing supervisor, Rose Horner, retired on October 2nd. Thanking her for her 28 years of service with the city of Dubuque. It was awesome working with Rose. We also have a part-time, fully remote finance project manager, Keith Stray. He is retiring the end of this fiscal year. Even though he's only been with us 2.5 years of service, he brought with him 30 years worth of finance director experience. So really appreciate the knowledge he brought to us during our ERP implementation in the last 2.5 years. We also have a lot of new faces and promotions in the finance department. Dorothy Pearson started in November as a utility billing cashier. Caitlin Heiderscheit originally started in finance as an intern. Then she came back as an accounts payable accountant, and then she was promoted to budget financial analyst in February. We have Chris Valet, utility billing supervisor, who you'll be hearing from soon. He was promoted in August in preparation for Rose's retirement. And we also have Alyssa Carlin. She is a current finance intern being promoted to accounts payable accountant, so that will be effective April 21st. We have a new employee coming on board this coming Monday, April 14th, Shannon Soppy, budget financial analyst, so filling our vacant spots, which will be great. And then we have our fully remote part-time project manager, Nancy McCall. She started March 21st, so a little bit of overlap with Keith Stray, but she is taking over some of the approvals that are done in our department for accounts payable. This is our current organization chart. We have 25.51 full-time equivalents in the finance department. And then here's a recent group shot photo of the finance department. So I just want to take an opportunity to say thank you to my staff. We are constantly tackling challenges, completing countless tasks, and they do it with exceptional teamwork and professionalism. So I appreciate everything that they do on a daily basis. So couldn't do it without them. We recently did an ordinance change on the Investment and Cash Management Oversight Commission. So first of all, it changed the name, adding cash management. And then we also added to the commission's duties, reviewing internal cash management practices and external agreements regarding the banking services agreement, U.S. Treasuries and certificates of deposits. And then we also added in there recommending as needed changes in the cash management practices to the city council. So expanding their duties relating specifically to banking services, but other cash management. This is the finance department's impact on property tax support, so $11.35 to the average homeowner. And then a snapshot shot of performance measures we're working on. So goals on track, we're receiving the GFOA Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting, also in the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. We have a great number of UB customers using direct payment. We're improving on the number of customers using the online water management portal, and you'll see later that number has really ticked up. And we need to work on budget engagement, getting out in the community. So we'll be working on that in the next year now that we are fully staffed. Taking a look at the budget activity, these are what our budget staff works on. So we are assisting development of budgets and departments. We oversee and manage about a $263.5 million budget. And of course, we're maintaining and enforcing adherence to the budget that is approved. We do have online tools, including Open Budget, Balancing Act, Taxpayer Receipt. We develop and manage the city's annual operating budget, 5-year capital improvement plan, and then we put together all the budget documents that are available on the city's website. We also use a tool called Balancing Act that allows any resident to go online and rebalance the city's budget. This just shows how many page views there have been. In 25, there's a bit of a downtick due to us being out in the community less in the last 12 months due to other things happening in the budget office and also being down staff. And as I mentioned, we do have a lot of online tools, so just want to make sure those are pointed out. Residents can access these on the city's website at any time. Some of our highlights in budget, we do an annual department training for all departments. So this is teaching them and going back over how to enter their budgets. For example, in the budget system and some of those key items that they need to know to put their budget together. That happens the end of every August. We also leveraged the Tyler payroll system for the first year to import real-time salary data to the budget, and this is super exciting for us because all prior years, prior to 26, employee expense budgets were done in outside Excel workbooks, so hoping that this gets more efficient as we go forward, but I'm excited to be leveraging the system. Also, implementation of the classification and compensation study to all non-represented employees in the 26 budget. This was very complicated for us and took a significant amount of time, so it required moving all non-represented employees from the old wage plan, placing every single employee on the new wage plan at their new grade, new step, and then even more important, reviewing that and making sure it was accurate. So that it impacted a lot of employees, so over 300 plus employees. And of course, we received the GFOA's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the 25 budget. It was our 19th consecutive year. We also got significant recognition for long-term planning, and just showing a chart of some of the Iowa cities and the number of years they've also received the award. And then our future initiatives, we are, like I said, wanting to continue to expand budget engagement, looking to partner with the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support there. Also looking to do some process improvements, including the budget process. I talked about salary projections. We've only done it once, so it can definitely get more efficient. And then our budget document production, just discussions about how we can make that happen sooner. Also looking to do department training on budget amendments and the project ledger in the system, and of course expand the use of the Tyler Munis budget module features. And I'm going to have Purchasing and Risk Manager Tony Breitbach talk about purchasing and risk management.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tony Breitbach, Purchasing Risk Manager. From purchasing at a glance, so this 2025, what we covered, we support procurement activities across all departments. So that's every single city department. We coordinate the joint purchase efforts as well. So we are decentralized. Any of those bulk volume opportunities, we take that and combine that and look for cost savings and efficiencies there. We do work very closely in our contractual side as well for efficiencies, cost savings through data as well on the purchases. We are on state boards. We talk monthly with different cities, state municipalities from that perspective of what opportunities are out there. So it's really a good opportunity for all of us to look and look forward as well. We're in some interesting times, to say the least, as far as costs and what that looks like going forward, and we're monitoring that closely. We do oversee and manage a network of over 5,000 active vendors, so those are active in our system within the last 3 years. As you know, we purchase a lot of goods and materials here at the city, and we work very closely with them. We do maintain and enforce as well our policies, terms, procedures associated, whether that's a federal grant, state grant. We're proud to support our local preference of 5%, 10% preference on local vendors. We monitor that as well. So those are some aspects of what we do. One of the fiscal year highlights that we wanted to bring forth tonight was our automated vendor setup process. So as mentioned, those 5,000 vendors, you can about imagine the bank changes, the information changes, changes of ownership. So we automated that process. We're extremely grateful for our IT department. Tony Steffen did a fantastic job along with the rest of the finance team coming together in city departments to make this happen. If you watch the news, it's a very high-risk area for fraud. Those vendor setups check issues, things of that nature. So that really narrows down that scope and helps us with that risk associated there. Going forward, we are currently working through the implementation of the e-procurement software process, and that's with Ion Wave Technologies. So we're beginning that. What does that look like day 1 to 12 weeks and so forth and so on with our different departments. And then also incorporating AI. So recently, actually preparing for this, the cover of our American Purchase Society, 5 pages into it, what AI will do to improve purchasing. Very, very excited about this. It's in everything. We know that. A lot of us are waiting at the edge of our seats, and we're right there reading up on what opportunities we have. Changing gears a little bit, risk management and safety, that's something as well, as Jenny noted, we do here in finance. We assist in identifying and assessing those risks and safety within not only our departments, our organization, but also across the city. So we partner with very closely with City Legal and Human Resources. Karen and her team and Shelley do a fantastic job, and I can't thank them enough for being there with us and through these different scenarios. So workplace and employee safety, liability and property coverages, insurance and damage claims, and then emergency preparedness, and also those compliance and regulation concerns. We firmly believe in a proactive approach to hazard identification, injury prevention, and risk management as a whole. It truly makes a safer work environment, as I mentioned, not only for our employees, but also our citizens. I couldn't talk about safety without noting the accomplishments of our safety committee. So we have 1,000+ employees come summertime, and we have a lot of different opportunities from a risk perspective, from a safety perspective, in what we do, whether that's dump trucks or digging or you name it, we pretty much cover it here at the City of Dubuque. The safety committee is consisted of an array of individuals across our organization from different departments. As you can see, we coordinate those safety activities. We drive the safety culture at the city, and that's working hand in hand with our employees. And I can't thank them enough, the difference I've seen from day 1 till now. So they've done a fantastic job at that. Yeah, and also, like I mentioned, protecting the health and safety of just not only the employees, but also the citizens. That flows through. From that safety committee, we realized we got a lot going on. We created a couple subcommittees, and they're very important. The incident review team, every single incident, injury, and accident is reviewed, and that's timely. That's immediate. So I take my hat off to them and that team for what they do there. They make recommendations not only to the department, but it may be to the assistant city manager, the human resources director, the legal team. So it's really that collaborative teamwork that we take together and make sure we correct any actions that may be out there. We have the safety training team, as mentioned, a lot of employees, a lot of different ground to cover. They come in and they recommend different opportunities for safety as a whole. And then the safety audit team. We walk through facilities such as this. We do work site visits. We do whatever we can to get out in the field and see people where they're working, talk to them, have that relationship, because that's what it's all about. And one of our key factors there is if you see something, say something. I don't care what your role is in the city of Dubuque, you're important to us, 100%. And if you see something, let us know, because we have square miles we cover here. We have several facilities, as we all know. I just don't want to stand up here and talk. I wanted to show an example, and what you see at the screen there is one where we were at a facility, a large facility here that the city owns, and we were talking to individuals, and the employee says, hey, I got one for you. We have a facility that we don't visit very often, but the stairs are terrible. I'm worried about falling. Look at that picture there, and that's what they were. Our incident review team, within a matter of weeks, had it fixed to the right there. And that's what it takes. If you see something, say something. And the employee was super happy. We, as an employer, that's what we want. So I appreciate all that were involved with that action. Some highlights for 2025 on the safety and risk side. We did do a comprehensive review of our 40-plus policies and procedures. And that's for regulatory compliance and other OSHA, so forth and so on. So we work with a third-party provider there, and that has been completed. We implemented a paperless electronic safety audit process as well. So as I talked about, our safety committees get out and about. We want to make sure we're tracking that and following up on that, right? If we know about it, we want to address it. And that's what that does. We integrated safety presentations into new employee and supervisor training. So we also know that statistically, it's a high probability that first 90 days. So an additional layer we added was just not only that hands-on safety training, but also that overall safety training. And thank you to the HR department for helping us get that set up. And then we had the opportunity to present to Iowa League of Cities. It was a fun conference. We were able to present on risk management strategies for cities. It went very well, and we appreciate that opportunity. Some future initiatives on the risk and safety side is to continue the training on those comprehensive safety policies and procedures. And then we also want to establish an automated safety program tracking mechanism. So as I mentioned, we have 1,000 employees, 850 full-time in there. It's a lot. So we want to combine it into one process, and we're excited to hopefully share with you in the near future of what that looks like and what that rollout has done for the city of Dubuque. And then also just explore risk management software. So we have $750 million worth of property. We have thousands of insurance certificates come across our desk, and really condense that and automate that. The finance department has done an amazing job. Everyone in that department has done an amazing job of pulling together and automating systems. And it's an uphill battle at times, but they've done great work. And I want to end by saying thank you to the city manager and ultimately you, the council. 110% backing the safety of our employees. Truly impressed with what that process has looked like. And there's never been a question as far as correcting actions or measures. So thank you all. I'll go ahead and turn it over back to Jenny.
All right, so jumping into the finance activities. In this activity, we are enforcing financial policies, also recommending new financial policies when necessary. We have cash and investment management of over $150 million. Debt management, general accounting, we do the biweekly payroll, the weekly vendor payments, grant accounting assistance and monitoring, accounts receivable, and of course auditing and reporting of the city's financials. We also work with legislative changes, implementation, and concerns, analyzing the financial impact. So right now I am starting to look at the new property tax legislation proposed, which proposes to eliminate rollback, so trying to see what the impact to the city would be for that. We are also evaluating administrative policy and tariff impacts on purchased goods. So for example, predictions of vehicle costs increasing $3,500 to $12,000. So these things are happening fast and furious. Monitoring grant issues and developments. We had staff attend a recent federal fund management advisor webinar. It was stated in that webinar, the blizzard of presidential executive orders and policy memoranda from the Office of Management and Budget has been dizzying. This activity has been followed by thousands of grant termination notices and scenes of federal employees leaving offices with personal belongings. So a lot of uncertainty as far as federal funding, so trying to stay on top of that as well. Some highlights in the finance activity: we successfully completed the request for proposal for new agreement for banking services. Had a great outcome for that. We have an enhanced oversight of city investments along with that, so we have resulted in earnings of over $4.8 million to date for investment earnings, which is great. We also achieved a successful implementation of the citywide payroll and electronic time and attendance system in the first year. So we went live March 14th of 2024. And we've had a lot of streamlined operations and improved data visibility with that project. We also conducted a comprehensive review of city leases, including detailed billing analysis and ongoing revenue evaluation. And really exciting, we finalized the fiscal year 24 audit last Friday. The opinion was issued, and we plan on going to council to present the audit at the April 21st council meeting. And it's pretty impressive because we signed the engagement letter with our new auditors in October, and we turned it around in about 5 months. So we hope 2025's audit will be even better. Hope to issue by the end of December. So doing 2 audits in this calendar year, but it'll be good to get back on track. We also implemented new billing software for the landfill, known as CompuWay. So accounting staff does the landfill's accounting, and we use that software to do that. We revamped the internal process for property tax allocation and billing related to city facilities and leases. So a lot of properties to keep track of for that. We also did a department-wide in finance, a 7-week Dale Carnegie customized training. So we focused on addressing conflict openly, minimizing trust busters, world-class customer service, communication, and teamwork. So it was a really good experience for all of the finance staff. I also presented at the Government Finance Officers Association's National Conference in Orlando. I did 2 sessions. I did one on recruitment and retention, and another one on utility billing, ERP implementation. So a lot of cities doing ERP implementation. And also on the finance side, GFOA Certificate of Achievement for financial reporting, 36 consecutive years. And this chart just shows other Iowa cities and the number of years of awards. So a lot of great number of years for Iowa cities. Of course, we have the credit rating, which the finance department helps obtain when debt is issued. So in January of 2025, when we were doing debt issuance, Moody's affirmed the AA2 credit rating on our general obligation bonds. So that reflects our healthy economic base, and Dubuque as a regional economic center, and of course a healthy fund balance, which is likely to remain above 45%. Even though we're spending down ARPA funds. And previous to that, in July of 23, we were upgraded from AA3 to AA2 on general obligation bonds, and sales tax increment upgraded from A2 to A1. So definitely, a good example of sound fiscal management of the mayor and city council, and it's, a very great credit rating when we sell bonds, and we get great interest rates. Just another reminder of what our statutory debt limit is projected to be in fiscal year 26. So we are projected to be at 33.5% in 26. In fiscal year 35, we're projecting to be at 19%. So back in 2015, we were at 90%, and then council adopted the debt reduction policy. We've seen a significant reduction from 15 to fiscal year 26, there's been a 63% decrease. Looking at comparison of our debt limit compared to other cities, Dubuque is the 5th lowest at the 33.5%, with Des Moines as the highest, and they're 104% higher than us, and the average is 27% higher than Dubuque. And then recapping our general fund reserve projections, in 26, we're projecting a spendable general fund reserve of just over 32 million, which under Moody's methodology is about 54%, so very strong reserves. And we now have all of the larger Iowa cities with populations over 50,000, their proposed tax levies. So Dubuque is recommending a rate that's the lowest out of those cities, and Waterloo is the highest, 116% higher than Dubuque. The average is 55% higher than Dubuque. Future initiatives in the finance activity, we are kicking off implementation of our debt and investment management software that was approved by City Council this week. And also we are going to be doing some implementations of some Tyler modules that we put on hold while we were trying to get the audit back on track. So we're kicking off also this week enterprise asset management, which is specific for fixed assets and tracking for financial statement purposes. So we'll get that underway. We're also looking at working with IT to get the employee manager access portal launched, where employees can go into the portal, look up their W-2, change their W-4, change their addresses, just make things easier for employees and managers. Looking to implement advanced scheduling for police and fire. So that helps with all of their employee schedules for all their shifts. And we're also looking to schedule the employee expense reimbursement module. So that allows employees to do that electronically through the system, and it would move from accounts payable to payroll. Also looking to write our financials internally and automate that. So we're working through that process right now. So the plan would be the 2025 financials would be written in-house by our finance staff. We do have one recommended improvement package in finance. It's a bilingual self-service payment kiosk. So that would provide residents around-the-clock bill payment solution. It could be internal or external, depending on the location selected. Non-recurring costs of $40,000. Reoccurring for the software maintenance, $8,000. It would all be paid for by split evenly between the enterprise funds. And then I know we just talked about this improvement package in the Economic Development Department for the Financial Project Specialist position, and I just wanted to mention that I strongly support this position. I play a major role right now in doing TIF calculations and all the things that come with TIF, and it would be extremely helpful to have a position dedicated to this for TIF. And now I will turn it over for the last part of the presentation to Utility Billing Supervisor Chris Valet.
Yep.
I'm a little smaller than most, so I apologize. How y'all doing? I'm Chris Valet, Utility Billing Supervisor. We are in the Utility Billing Department. We handle water, sewer, refuse, and stormwater. Currently, right now, we have about 24,000 meters in service. We have our online portal, our customer service database. Our goal with all of the cashiers we have in City Hall, prompt and courteous customer service. So not only if you're at the window helping your customer, when you're walking the streets, when you're walking through City Hall, just a nod, a smile, a hey, how you doing? Treat everybody the same. The offset program has really picked up this time of year with the taxes coming back in. So that's been a big boost in a lot of the dollars we have coming in. We also deal with parking tickets down at the City Hall location also, as well as garbage stickers, yard waste stickers, and large item pickups. Got this. So our online customer service portal offers leak alerts. You can sign up for paperless billing, online quick pay, and also set up for auto pay. So the leak alerts is great. You're on vacation. You get an alert on your cell phone, you got running water. That's never a good thing, okay? So you call your neighbor, you call your cousin, whomever, you go check out the house, try to figure out what's running. Maybe you just flushed before you headed out and that toilet just ran on you. The last thing we want is you to come back from vacation to a $300 water bill. So you have that ability through the online customer portal to get that set up and know when things are going on. Paperless billing, we can do all we can to get the mail out, but unfortunately we do not deliver that mail. E-billing, it gets to your inbox. It's there, it's for you, it's instant. Once that bill is ready, you can go ahead and pay that bill. We also have the online quick pay option. If you don't want to set up an account, not everybody's comfortable with the online access, put in your information, you can just make a one-time payment. As we spoke earlier about auto pay, that's the main goal. Get on auto pay, you don't got to worry about it. Your bill's just going to get paid, we move on to the next month. Fiscal year 25 highlights. So in 24, we had about 19% of our customers on auto or on e-billing. We are up to 20% now. We had 36% on auto pay. We are now at 40%. Phone and online payment usage just jumped up a little bit from 32 to 35%. But the biggest one here is the portal, the online portal amount of customers who have signed up. Last year we were at 39%. We have over half of our customers now on the online portal. Reduced fees. So our residents do qualify for reduced fees program based on income. Percentage-wise, that number's about the same. It did dip a little bit from February to February. We are now, as of right now, back up to about 580 residents are on the reduced fee program. The marketing of the reduced fees, we've got the city website, the back of every utility bill. We're actually going to be hopefully changing that to put information on the front of that utility bill. Nobody looks at the back of your bill. Most people don't look at the front of their bill. So get it off the back, let's put it on the front and center for them. Dollars and cents brochures, city's channel Dubuque, city social media channels, and then of course landlords know that it's out there for them too. So if they have a resident that's moving in that's on housing, Section 8, let them come to us and apply for those reduced fees. They're going to qualify for that discount. Community Impact Service Program, I'm sure you've all heard a lot about that. It was the program that started in January of this year. That Census Tract 5 from Central to 17th to Aquin Avenue. We've been in it just about 4 months now. And over $4,500 has been paid to past due utility bills for people that would probably have their water turned off, would be in a tougher spot. This has been a great program. I'm sure Antonio will talk more about it when he comes up to speak to you guys. I'm really happy that this was approved because it has been very beneficial to all the residents here in Dubuque. We do also offer payment plans for people who get behind on their bill. In the last year, we helped 181 people go on payment plans and recovered about $58,000 from them by being on those payment plans. As I stated just a bit ago, Community Impact Service, 25 accounts assisted, $4,500 paid. And then other agencies, Dubuque County Veteran Affairs, St. Vinny's, Catholic Charities, they're always there to help our residents also. They have been very grateful. We enjoy them. They call us. We help them as much as we can. So yeah, that's what we have for the assistance. Here is the delinquency. This is 24 to 25. So last year to this year, where we are right now in April, if you look at March there, pretty much identical to where we were last year. We did not do shutoffs or disconnects when we were transitioning over to Tyler. So that's why you see that large spike there. We just kind of let it go. We weren't worried about it. We had bigger fish to fry at that point in time. So, and we do want to see that continue to trend down as far as delinquent balances go. Like I said earlier, the agencies, HACAP, St. Vinny's, Veteran Affairs, all want to help our residents. We went live with Tyler on August 1st of 23. That was fun. Will not lie, it was a good time. Water disconnections and late fees were put on hold for about 6 months, and that's where you saw that spike there. And then we also obviously have the property lien and collection agency process to take care of some of those unpaid bills also. Some future initiatives we have, continued training in Tyler. We go through a training once a month with Tyler. We gather as a team of all the questions and concerns that we have every month, and we get it right to Tyler, and we knock them out one after another. I've learned so much from doing that. I am very happy that the whole team in the utility billing office has also gained knowledge from this. It's just been a huge asset to what we do every day. We want to continue to reduce delinquent utility bills. Financial assistance is out there, payment plans are available, community impact is out there. That's what they're there for. Improve some processes, reporting, time management with the new Tyler software. We're learning new stuff every month with the Tyler trainings that we go through. Jenny spoke earlier about the payment kiosk for after hours or off-site in-person payments. That'd be very beneficial also. We do need to find locations, discuss some things, but that would be very beneficial in the future. Increase marketing efforts for the reduced fee program, possibly posters on Jewel buses, city electronic signage, working with housing. Anybody who is approved for Section 8 automatically qualifies for reduced fees. Done. There's no application, there's no paperwork, you don't got to submit income again. I wish there was a better way that they could just say, hey, Bob just got on housing, can you give him reduced fees? Done. We need to get that communication line a little bit better, I think, between them and us. Implementation of a tablet for helping our customers who don't like the internet. They don't like computers. You tell them to fill out an application online, they look at it and say, no, I'm not going to fill this out online. We have this iPad. We can go out into the hallway with them, get it all set up. All I need you to do, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, is just fill in the blanks, and you're done. You don't got to worry about it. We're taking the load off you. We want to revisit our insufficient fund policy. It's the NSF process. We have a lot of our residents that continuously they give us bad checks, and it's to keep the water on. We get it. But at the same time, there's fees every time. We're adding more money to your bill when you're already struggling. We're adding more money to your bill when you're struggling. We just learned with this Tyler training that we have an ability to stop it. So when you hit 3 of those, it would no longer allow you to pay by that method. In turn, I would hope that those customers would reach out to us, and then we can go over community impact program. We can go over the reduced fee program and do a lot more with them and kind of force them to make that call. Sometimes I feel like people are scared to reach out. They're embarrassed to reach out. We don't want that. We want to be able to help you. Our goal is not to turn your water off. Our goal is to keep your water on all day, every day. And then again, to continue to promote the Community Impact Service Program. And look at that lovely group right in front of City Hall. That is all I have. Again, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you all. We are in a public hearing for the Finance Department Fiscal Year 26 budget. I see no members of the public present, so I'll ask if there's any public input, but there won't be. And then do we have any virtual? Okay, all right. So back to us then for discussion. Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. So besides all the work on ERP and all the excellence awards and the online tools for transparency and the classification and compensation, what else you've been doing, right? I mean, it's just been a ton of work. I noticed that you're up 5 full-time people in 2 years. And I know you've been looking for a person that you expressed relief for finally filling that position. And could you tell me, I mean, sometimes it's difficult to handle the input of 5 new people in 2 years. Could you tell me the overall, what were the challenges and what were the benefits of those 5 people that you've gotten the past couple of years?
So first of all, I just want to clarify that they weren't necessarily all full-time staff. So one of the changes we made is we increased the number of FTEs for interns because that has been so successful in our department, the value that they bring to our department. So for example, on the finance side, we have 1.75 FTEs budgeted for interns, and then on the utility billing side, we have 1.26. So it used to be a much lower number. I believe it was 0.5 for each, and that was increased. So that would have been a portion of that increase. And then another part of that increase would have been our part-time, fully remote project manager. And we just found that position was very necessary, especially as we went through the ERP implementation. That position takes care, so the position learned all of our purchasing policies and internal city policies as far as what it takes to put in a requisition, purchase order, invoice, what are the requirements for that, and they do the approvals. And I don't think I could put it into words how much time is dedicated to that process. Like if myself or the finance manager and the purchasing and risk manager were doing that approval process, there is little time left for other work that we need to do. So that was a huge relief bringing that part-time, fully remote position on to take on those duties. A more recent addition that we had that was approved was a full-time budget financial analyst for the accounting side. And that was to reduce the burdens on the finance manager, who is now having to put more emphasis on the payroll side with, with more data and finance taking on a lot more role of the payroll processing. He just, isn't as available for, some of the auditing duties and some of the preparation that's required for that and the ongoing reporting. So that position is taking on a lot of those responsibilities to ease up, some of the stress he was experiencing, not being able to get to everything he needed to, because obviously the audit has a lot of deadlines to meet when we want to issue our financial statements. So that was another position that was added.
I see. All right, thank you. And it's been a few months, but could you tell us where the banking services funds, what did we do with that $4.8 million?
So just, again, to clarify on that, we received different payments from that banking services agreement. So there was the payment for previous to the banking services, the new agreement going into effect, which I believe off the top of my head was about 2.5 million. Those funds were set aside. And then there is the amount that we've earned since the agreement went into effect, which was September 1st of 2024. So we do what is called pooled cash. So the interest is allocated across all city funds. However, I would say about 67% of it is considered general fund or tax funds.
Is that what you mean by set aside? What do you mean by set aside?
So the 2.5 million that was paid for honoring the previous agreement, those funds were set aside.
What does that mean? Set aside.
For a use to be determined later.
So they're in the bank?
Yes, they're in the bank, yes.
And are they part of your budget here? I mean, just tell us that's not part of this at all.
It is not part of
because we're not spending it.
It's not part of the fiscal year 26 recommended budget,
Okay.
no.
How much money do we have set aside?
It's the 2.5 million.
Okay. I mean, okay, thank you. All right, finally, the improvement package, what was the demand for this? Why are we doing this when we have 50% of the people online portal? Is the online portal bilingual?
I don't know. I will find out. I would assume it's based on.
It's for the citizens, actually, that I'm asking questions.
Yeah, I do not know the answer to that, but I will try to find that answer out for you. I did
Okay,
not look
great.
into that, but I'll let y'all know.
Yeah, like you say, I would certainly hope that it would be
I'm
bilingual.
assuming it is, and it's probably more than bilingual. I'm
And-
sure there's
and-
other languages built into the system also.
Right, and you did say 50% of our there's a 50% participation in this online portal,
In
correct?
the online portal, but just because they're in the portal doesn't mean they're paying their bills through the portal. That's
Okay.
just they're in the portal. They're looking at their bills, things like that.
So what is the demand? How was it determined that this $40,000 outlay was necessary?
Just to give people an option. Not everybody can get in Monday through Friday to pay their bills. Some people only want to pay with cash. We have that option now. If we can have this system, after 5 o'clock, you're able to pay a bill. On a weekend, you're able to pay the bill. You're down at farmer's market. Oh, I need to pay my water bill. Look at this fancy machine. I can pay it right here. So it definitely does have a benefit. to the residents.
But they could pay it online.
They could also pay it online.
Because this portal, gives them information like an email and other, that, yes, we did get you, we received your information. And so it's kind of like it's online, but it's right there.
But it's right there at their fingertips.
They could do it at the library or other places too, perhaps.
Only if it takes cash.
It takes cash.
Yeah, not the library.
And that's secure, so it's nice and secure too.
Correct, yeah.
All right, thank you. So, the last question, does the $40,000 include installation?
Yes, so the 40,000 is the one-time cost of purchasing the machine, implementing it, installing it, and then there's reoccurring costs of $8,000 for the software, annual software maintenance costs.
Thank you for answering those questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Yeah, so I wanted to kudos to you and your department for being what I consider a model department. When you consider the IT and the AI applications that your whole group is using, and I just wanted to refresh everybody's memory. It's purchasing, it's risk, safety, and management, it's utility building, it's finance, it's accounting, it's budget, it's payroll. And so this is really a good model for the residents of Dubuque to be aware of, because we are really saving operational funding here and manpower by all of these applications. And I know it'll take a few phases to really get it smooth, if you will, but it's with great appreciation that you took this step on behalf of the whole community here, because it's not easy. And there's a lot of training involved, and then there's a lot of technology that changes maybe every other hour sometimes, depending on your application. So I just wanted to congratulate you on this balancing act, and looking forward to learning more about it and actually maybe sharing this story with other municipalities. So congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Ms. Bethel.
So I think you touched on it just briefly, but I'd like to call a little bit more attention to it, in that in transitioning to Tyler, you had to manually go in and enter 850 employees. Is that about right?
So that would be related to implementing the classification and
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
compensation study. So we had to transition employees from the old pay plan to the new pay plan. It wasn't necessarily manually entering each one, but we had to put together imports, and we did it by department. So we did about 30 separate imports. And Laura Bendorf, the budget manager, was the one who spearheaded most of that project of putting the imports together, importing them, and then having to see if what was imported was accurate. So there was some redoing of imports after it was imported, of course, because it was the first year that we actually did salary imports to begin with.
And I just bring it up because I remember hearing about the intense requirement of time that it took your team to do that. And so I just want to thank you, because as somebody that doesn't work with computers, I'm not sure how you do that every day, but to do it even extended hours in order to kind of, in a way, meet deadlines to make it effective. I really appreciate your time and want to acknowledge you for that. Tony, I think the thing I want to acknowledge you and your team for is just the focus on risk, and as Council Member Farber mentioned, just trying to stay in the forefront of technology as it relates to risk, and what an important piece that is for liability for our organization and safety of those that work here and all of our residents. So thank you for that. Chris, I can hear how you care for people who really struggle in our city, and you want to get the job done right for them. And so thank you for your commitment. I'm really excited you're in your role. And I think the idea of the portable, I'm sorry, I don't remember what portable payment module.
The tablet.
Yeah, the
Kiosk.
standalone kiosk.
Oh, the kiosk.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay.
idea of that, whenever I come into City Hall, I'm really impressed with how many people truly do come to the windows to ask for help, to pay their bills, to do the work in person. We do a lot of that in my line of work in healthcare too, where people just really need to talk to someone. And so you're always available in that way. God bless you. But the other piece of it is that there's a lot of people that can't come in and do that transaction because they work Monday through Friday. While we're there, they just can't be there. And so I really appreciate that although this kiosk might only serve a smaller number of people, I think the kiosk is really powerful for the group of people that need it. So I'm excited to support that moving forward. Thank you, Mayor.
So I was waiting for Ms. Russell, see if she popped in, but I don't think we have anything from Ms. Russell. So first of all, let me just point out that every single year when you come in front of us, you present on the ways that you have built efficiency into your department. It is a consistent theme for you. And there's changes in staffing. We've basically, filled out the staffing in the way that need to be filled out. But this efficiency and the things that you're doing, it makes for a better work environment for all of you, but then really everybody within the city organization, because you're trying to create a system that's going to work in a way that is easier for everybody to just do their job and not have to worry about the ancillary things that are really important, but they just need to get done so people can go and do the work that they're hired to do. But then it also brings actual savings in the form of real money to residents and taxpayers in our city. I mean, that's a huge job. So I really appreciate all that. And some of it's been mentioned here, but the implementation of the classification and compensation study, you're forgiven, first of all, for the time it took to get all this stuff done, because we recognize fully that this was a huge undertaking. And you didn't have enough time to get it done, really. You didn't have time built into the regular work week. You had to put in a lot of extra hours to do this in the last couple of weeks. And we are sincerely grateful for that. The people of Dubuque, I think, are sincerely grateful because we can now have these discussions and be able to talk about it accurately. So thank you for all that work. And then just, everybody talked about some of these things. The purchasing and efficiencies and protection into that, the safety aspect, the interest earnings that were mentioned by Mr. Resnick. I mean, that's a big number right there. That's a really big number to be able to talk about interest earnings. And then all the work that's being done in utility billing, that's a long list of things that you're currently working on and then working on in the future. The kiosk, there's some good questions raised about the kiosk, but am I correct that this is basically at as net zero for the taxpayer because of the fact that there are fees built in to be able to get this done and that kind of thing?
Correct. So
Okay.
utility billing is fully funded by the 4 enterprise funds that they bill for.
Yeah. And the ongoing costs, $8,000 a year, give or take, to be able to maintain this piece of equipment? Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that is worth it. And I also think it's worth tracking to see how many people are using it, to make sure that we know, who's coming there. And I think it'll help us also to be able to understand what it is that keeps people from doing things online. I think there's some ways that could actually be really useful. So I think it's a good addition, and I'm glad that you're asking for it too. But it's also a great opportunity to make sure that you're continually looking at more data as we get through here. I'm worn out just thinking about the work that you all do. It was just, that presentation there was so much in there, and I just can't say enough how much we appreciate it. We get, every single year, we get how much this department is doing, and we appreciate how you work with the entire city organization to get it done. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, before I close this out, did I forget anything? We held some stuff, and there were other things. Is there anything that we needed to discuss that I'm blanking on? Okay, good. So all 7 of us are saying no, so I'm just going to move us along here. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for tonight. We will gather again tomorrow, many of us, for another budget hearing. So for tonight, we are adjourned.